a little bit of fun.
This is fun!
On your morning drive, this is Robby and Rexrode. With Robby Stanley and Joe Rexrode. Presented by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty. On Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
Ladies and gentlemen,
it's showtime.
Hey, welcome into the Monday edition of Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby Stanley alongside Adam Vingan, Michelle Knezvik here with you on this Monday morning. Hope everybody had a great weekend, and it's up and Adam on this early Monday morning. Adam Vingan, good morning. Welcome into the program. How are you?
Has anybody done a welfare check on Rexrode?
No, I have not heard from Joe Rexrode since he went to Bonnaroo yesterday. So
he's not passed out in a field in Manchester?
I could
somewhere.
not confirm or deny. I don't know. I mean, first off, I haven't really checked on him, so it's probably a fault of mine that I've not checked to see what's going on and how he's doing, but I have not heard from Rexrode.
Well, I hope he had a wonderful time.
I do too.
I heard that he was going with his daughter to see Foo Fighters last night. I guess nobody told Joe that he could have streamed the entire thing.
I didn't know that.
On Hulu. But when I heard Joe was going to Bonnaroo, my mind immediately, as it often does, went to an episode of The Simpsons, where Homer takes Bart and Lisa to Lollapalooza.
Yes.
And there's a scene where Homer buys a Rastafarian hat, and Lisa tells him he can't wear it, and he goes, "I've been Safarian since before you were born." So I just imagine Joe thinking he's hipper than he actually is.
Yeah, I can see that. I'm interested to see and hear what the stories look like from Rexrode at Bonnaroo. Only for one day, too. So it's not even like he's doing the
camping
the full
out
4 days experience. But just one day, I think, is probably enough for Rexrode at Bonnaroo.
Yeah, to those of you who have done that or just did that, full marks to you. Sure. I have less than 0% interest of doing that. So I hope you all had a great time.
Yeah, hope Bonnaroo was a fabulous experience for you out there. We hope to hear from Rexrode at some point today. Michelle Knezvik went on an adventure to Las Vegas this weekend and was a part of the Vegas Golden Knights Stanley Cup parade thanks to Superbook Sports. Michelle, how are we doing this morning?
Well, I just want to say I made it here and Rexrode didn't.
You did.
So I am very tired this morning. This was a record. So this weekend I think I stopped in 4 cities. So started in Nashville, drove to New Orleans, layover in Houston, Vegas, then on the way back, Kansas City, New Orleans, and drove back to Nashville last night. And I am here this morning in Rexrode. Ladies and gentlemen, let's just listen to that.
Rexrode is asleep, doing something. We'll see.
What a parade that was.
What a parade that was.
It was insane.
Lots of people out there in Vegas.
They shut down the Strip on both sides of the street.
I
don't know how often they've ever done that.
I don't know, but there's a ton of people out there. And I don't know, Madam, that anything will ever quite surpass the 2018 Washington Capitals and Alex Ovechkin swimming in fountains out there after they won the Stanley Cup. But William Karlsson was pretty epic.
Who's in worse shape right now, William Karlsson or Joe Rexrode?
I don't know. I hope that
it's
William
probably
Karlsson
pretty close.
Worst shape.
I wish we could play William Karlsson's speech on the air, but we would be fined by the FCC. But he did fall down the stairs, which was hilarious.
It was quite the Stanley Cup winning speech from William Karlsson.
Yeah, look, he's a day one member of the Golden Knights, and he was very excited, and it looked like quite the scene out there, and I'm sure Michelle has other stories that maybe didn't make the television broadcast.
There were some passionate fans that you interviewed over the weekend, for sure.
Oh, there were.
Some passionate ones.
There were. And some of them, you ask them, like, you're getting a Stanley Cup. How do you feel? And they just would scream in my face. And I'm like, oh, gosh. Okay. Love it. It also was about 99 degrees. 99 degrees out in the sun.
For a city that did not have professional sports until 6 years ago, they've already won 2 championships.
They have.
In the WNBA and now in the NHL.
Pretty amazing. They're
probably going to win again in the WNBA this year.
They might win again.
You know who won't win the Super Bowl? The Las Vegas
Raiders.
The
Las Vegas Raiders. Probably not going to do that.
And eventually the Las Vegas Athletics.
Yes.
They won't win it either.
Probably not going to do that very soon. We got a lot to get to on the program here today. We'll be joined by Gentry Estes from the Tennessean coming up at 7:30. We'll get into Tennessee and the elimination game coming up a little bit later today with him. We're going to get into that here in just a few minutes. as well. Corey Curtis off this week on vacation, so he will not be with us for his weekly visit at 8 o'clock. He'll be back next week, so looking forward to that. But we begin very quickly with some news and notes from over the weekend. Ja Morant suspended 25 games by the NBA, so we knew that a suspension was coming pretty soon. I said Friday made a whole lot of sense, and Friday apparently made a whole lot of sense for the NBA, and Ja Morant suspended 25 games. And Adam, not only is he suspended 25 games, the way that it's kind of worded is, once you get to that point and the NBA and specifically Adam Silver deems that he's worthy of returning, basically, that's when they'll do it at that point. But 25 games was, I think, the original number that I had. And then the more I looked at it, the more I was thinking maybe it goes up to like 40 or half a season. A lot of people were expecting that, but 25 is the number that the NBA ends up on. And Ja Morant going to miss the first 25 games of the season. I heard Brian Windhorst talking about this over the weekend, and he was talking about, from not making the All-NBA team last year because of the original suspension to now this, the amount of money that Ja Morant has lost on this, it's like over $50 million. Like, it's incredible how much money he's lost on this, and he called it one of the most financially punitive suspensions in the history of all sports with Ja Morant.
Yes, this according to ESPN.com. Morant's 5-year, $194 million max contract is set to begin this coming season. It could have escalated if he had made All-NBA this season, which he did not, costing him about $39 million in future earnings. And the 25 games, that makes sense because it penalizes the Grizzlies to an extent, but this is not a Memphis Grizzlies issue. This is a Ja Morant issue. So 25 games it's not going to torpedo their season. Now, this was something in that same article that was amazing. So they went 20-5 during the 2021-22 regular season without Morant last season. And that is tied for the best win percentage by a team in NBA history in games played without a player averaging 25 points per game or more.
Yep.
So they have shown that they can play well without him. So 25 games, I don't think will ruin their chances of competing next season.
No, and they've got Tyus Jones, and Tyus Jones, he's a really good backup point guard, and obviously he's going to be really important. I think he's got a year left on his deal, so Tyus Jones, he's going to be playing a lot of minutes while Ja Morant is out there. But 25 games, the amount for Ja Morant, and then we'll see after that. I mean, Stephen A. Smith was talking about it. Ja Morant came out with a statement after the suspension was announced, basically talking about, how big of a wake-up call this is and how he's going to work to regain everybody's trust. And I thought Stephen A. Smith said it really well over the weekend. He said, dude, nobody believes you. And we're going to have to see what happens on that front. Can he keep his Instagram live clean? Can you keep your actions clean until the suspension is over with? And hopefully that this is something that he doesn't have to deal with again. But 25 games ends up being the number for Ja Morant. We'll see how the Grizzlies respond to that. In Omaha over the weekend, Tennessee loses their opening game to LSU, and we knew that it was going to be a tough matchup for Tennessee against the Tigers on Saturday. Paul Skeens on the mound for the Tigers, and he is the best player in college baseball, the best pitcher in college baseball, and he looked like it for the most part on Saturday night. Tennessee made it interesting late in that game, but ultimately LSU wins 6-3, and Tennessee will take on Stanford later today in an elimination game at Omaha. So that game begins, I believe, at 1 o'clock on ESPN a little bit later today. So the Vols taking on Stanford today at 1 o'clock. And it was one of those games, Adam, where you run into a guy that's throwing 102 miles an hour on the mound, and it's hard to overcome that. LSU wins 6-3, and now if you're Tennessee, you got to find a way to beat Stanford today, and then hope that the pitching that you've brought to the table can be something that really carries you through here. We've Joe and I have talked a lot about Chase Dolander and Chase Burns and Drew Beam and the pitching depth that they have. Well, now's going to be when it's tested because you're in the losers bracket. You got to take on Stanford today and see if you can get a win there, and then you'll take on the loser of LSU and Wake coming up a little bit later today as well. And by the way, Stanford had Wake on the ropes the other night. They were up 2-1 late in the game in the 7th inning, and then Wake comes back to win that game 3-2. So it looked like Stanford might take down Wake Forest in the game before Tennessee, LSU. Wake comes back to win 3-2 against Stanford, and then LSU wins. So the two teams that we expected Wake and LSU in the winners bracket, and now the Vols trying to avoid elimination today. Virginia eliminated yesterday by TCU. Florida takes down Oral Roberts. So Florida advances to the semifinals. Oral Roberts going to have to take on TCU, and I believe that game is happening tomorrow. Yes, tomorrow, TCU and Oral Roberts.
Yes, and Stanford is no pushover.
No, they're good.
So Tennessee will have its hands full, and Chase Dolander is the expected starter for Tennessee against Quinn Matthews of Stanford. So even if the Volunteers survive this game in advance, you're playing either Wake Forest or LSU again in the next round, and that's going to be. I think both games are going to be must-see matchups, but especially that game against Wake Forest and LSU. It says here they're the only two teams in the country that were ranked number 1 at some point in the season.
Yep.
So it should be a really good game. And, if Tennessee can survive, they're going to really have their hands full in their next matchup.
They are. We'll have Gentry Estes from the Tennessean coming up a little bit later in the show. We'll get his thoughts on the Vols as they're in Omaha, and they try to stave off elimination later today, taking on Stanford. We'll get his thoughts on that and a whole lot more coming up at 7:30. So looking forward to that here on the show. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. Adam Vingan in the house today. We'll take your thoughts all show long on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Coming up next, we will get into the Nashville Predators. We are just over a week away from the NHL draft. And not only the draft itself could be very interesting for the Predators, but maybe some moves made around the draft in the NHL. How do the Predators go about trying to build a championship roster? We will get into that with Adam Vingan coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5-106.3 The Game.
Hey guys, it's Mike at Newton Chevrolet GMC in Shelbyville. It's finally starting to warm up out there, right? You know what that means. Warmer temperatures means AC units better be ready to go. Is your car's AC not keeping up with the summer sun? Or are you relying on the open windows to keep you cooled off? Maybe it's time for an upgrade. And we've got you covered like sunscreen on a lifeguard's nose. If you're looking for a reliable used car, we've got them starting at just $9,000. And most of our used vehicles are covered with the Newton's certified pre-owned warranty, so that you'll have even more peace of mind. If you want more of an upgrade, our new car selection of Chevys and GMCs is waiting for you. From trucks to reliable SUVs and everything in between. And on certain Chevy units this month, you won't have to make a payment for 90 days. Don't keep sweating your way through summer. Get a great AC upgrade from Newton Chevrolet GMC in Shelbyville, Tennessee today. Visit NewtonChevroletGMC.com today. That's NewtonChevroletGMC.com.
The spring menu is here at Kitchen Notes in the Omni Nashville Hotel, featuring their signature cast iron pie with herb roasted chicken, English peas, carrots, potato, simple greens, and a toasted biscuit crumble topping. Or garden succotash with snap peas, black-eyed peas, roasted peppers, sweet corn, tomato, and caramelized onion. Or try the steak fritas with pan-seared ribeye. Kitchen Notes in the Omni Nashville Hotel, open daily till 2 with brunch Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 7 till 2.
Does this sound familiar? Did your agent provide excellent entertainment with their TikTok videos and constant social media posts about themselves while completely ignoring that you hired them to sell your home? Did they tell you how wonderful they were? How many followers they had? They probably never sold your home, but hey, they did get 15 likes on their selfies. Hashtag my clients love me. Don't let that happen to you. Google TJ Anderson Homes and see why the only likes we care about are our clients loving our service. Ask us about our prepay with TJ option and how it can save you thousands. TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty. Office number 615-432-2919.
Houston Clinic Orthopedics at Harding Place offers world-class orthopedic care. The doctors at their Harding Place location specialize in general orthopedics, foot and ankle, hip, pain management, hand, wrist, and elbow trauma, total joints, and orthopedic spine surgery. They offer same-day appointments, so get back to enjoying life sooner. Schedule your appointment online at tnhouston.com. Conveniently located at 394 Harding Place in Nashville. When experience matters, trust Houston Clinic Orthopedics.
For more than a century, AM radio has evolved to meet the needs of our community. In their car, at home, or on the job, more than 80 million listeners depend on AM radio each month. AM radio is also the backbone of the emergency alert system, which keeps us safe in dangerous times. It's reliable, free, and public safety depends on it. Text AM to 52886 and tell Congress we need AM radio in cars. This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Want to weigh in on the conversation?
It's a brain booster.
Slide into our DMs. Or just text or call at 615-737-1025. Our phone line is driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com.
Good morning.
You're locked into Robby and Rexrode, presented by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty.
I had the radio on. I'm listening to
1025 and 1063 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Welcome back in. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063 The Game, presented by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty. Call TJ's team today to see why they're referred to so often. Robbie Stanley, Adam Vingan, Michelle Knezvik here with you on this Monday morning. We are streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. Our video streaming brought to you by Superbook, live from our 1025 The Game studio, brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. So, Adam, we sit here today just over a week away from the NHL draft, a week away from Wednesday. Coming up here in town, the draft will take place. I think we know who's going number 1 overall with Connor Bedard and the Chicago Blackhawks that will be here. Predators scheduled to pick at number 15 and number 24 as things stands now. And we'll see if Barry Trotz moves around in the draft or if they hang put and pick where they're supposed to pick in the first round and then move on from there. But, you know, this is kind of the first offseason of the Barry Trotz era here, with Barry Trotz, I guess, officially taking over as general manager on July 1st. But make no mistake about it, he's got a heavy hand in everything going on right now, and it was Barry Trotz's decision to bring in Andrew Burnett and fire John Hines and all those things. So we are rapidly in the Barry Trotz era here with the Nashville Predators and his roster building, and this is going to be the first kind of look that we get at Barry Trotz and how he goes about trying to build this roster this offseason. So as we look at where the Predators are, we've talked a lot about the hiring of Andrew Burnett and what he's going to bring to the table and what we expect from him in terms of his style. We saw what the younger guys did at the end of the season last year. We know what they have in goal right now with UC Saros. But as you look at what the ultimate goal is for not only the Predators but for every team, and that is to eventually land your team in a position where they're competing for a Stanley Cup on a year-by-year basis. Where do you think the Predators currently are with their roster right now? And if you're Barry Trotz, what's the best path to get this team to being a championship contender in your mind as quickly as they possibly can do it? Which may not be all that quickly, depending on how you view it.
Yeah, I don't anticipate it being anytime soon, but I don't think the Predators anticipate it being anytime soon. I think they've been pretty clear about how they want the fan base to be patient, which is understandable, and I think that the fans are going to exercise some patience. You know, there's only so much patience everybody has, but I do think with Barry Trotz now in charge and, you know, this team, you know, really starting to take that step back, I think there will be some patience from the fans, but it's not unlimited. But when a team wins the Stanley Cup, you know, it leads to a lot of discussions like this one. You know, what can Team X learn from the Vegas Golden Knights, right, and how to build a championship team? I feel like the Vegas Golden Knights are the closest thing to a throwback to the pre-salary cap era as we have in the NHL. When I think about championship teams before the introduction of the salary cap during the 2005-2006 season, the first team I think of is the 2002 Detroit Red Wings.
Yep.
The team that defeated the Carolina Hurricanes in the Stanley Cup final. That team had no less than 6-7 Hall of Famers on it.
They were stacked.
Yzerman, Shanahan, Hasek, Robitaille, Lidstrom, Chelios, Brett Hull. You know, it was the best team that money could buy because you could do that at that time. You can't do that anymore. And the Vegas Golden Knights, you know, are reminiscent of that. They made a huge trade for Jack Eichel, huge trade for Mark Stone, signed Alex Pietrangelo. I was pretty amazed by this. I saw this over the weekend, and I apologize to the person who came up with it because I don't remember who it was. But the Game 5 lineup for the Vegas Golden Knights, where they clinched the Stanley Cup against the Florida Panthers, they had one player, the Vegas Golden Knights, one player in their lineup that was drafted by them in the entry draft.
Yeah.
Nick Hague, the defenseman.
It's crazy.
That's it. Of course, they had multiple original members of the Golden Knights who were taken in the expansion draft, like William Karlsson, Jonathan Marchessault, Braden McNabb, William Carrier, but they had one player that they drafted in the entry draft in their lineup in Game 5. And I don't think that is I don't think a lot of teams can do that. And it's funny because when we talk about the Golden Knights, we talk about how quote-unquote ruthless they have been, shipping out, fan favorites. And look, they've made some, let's say, crappy moves.
Yeah.
Remember they traded 3 draft picks for Tomas Tatar?
Oh, yes, I do.
Yeah, they made some bad moves. They acquired Max Pacioretty from Montreal. The player they gave up to acquire him is now the captain of the Montreal Canadiens, Nick Suzuki.
Yep.
They gave away Pacioretty last summer for future considerations. And he was their leading goal scorer during his time with the Golden Knights. So they don't care. They will do what it takes to win a championship, and it worked. And as that relates to the Predators, I don't see them doing that. I don't see them, mortgaging their future or their cap space to acquire as many top talented players as they can. It appears that they're going the draft and development route, which is what most teams do.
Right.
But the problem with that is it's not instantaneous. I was going to say it's not a guarantee that it works. Also, it's not a guarantee that the Vegas Golden Knights method worked. But now that it has, there's proof of concept.
Sure.
People will use that. But the Predators are interesting because they do have a lot of young players that have that are intriguing, and we've listed them all over time. Evangelista and Parsonen and Tomasino, but to me, at least not yet, none of those players scream franchise player. I think they're going to be good players, but I don't think Luke Evangelista is going to become a 45 goal scorer in the NHL. I could be very wrong, but I just don't think that's going to be him. And that's why I think the Predators, if they really want to do this draft and development model, they're going to have to do something that they probably don't want to do. And that's be bad enough to be picking near or at the top of the draft.
Well, and the natural question that comes up when someone says that is, okay, how does that happen? How do they get to a place where they're bad enough to pick at the top of the draft and get one of these franchise-changing guys? I mean, Barry Trotz, how many times since Barry Trotz has taken over the job, he has talked multiple times about finding a franchise-changing centerman. And he's gone on record, and it's no secret, the Predators have never had that guy. They've never had a true, legitimate, dominant number one centerman.
And more specifically, he here never had a center like that.
Never. So
when he was coach.
How do you go find one? How do you find one of those guys? As we know, they don't grow on trees, obviously. The Predators have not had one in 25 years. How do you find one? And maybe the answer is you have to be bad in order to find one of those guys in the draft. But the natural question after that, Adam, is, well, how are they going to be that bad if they've got UC Saros in net?
They're in an interesting spot because, to me, the best case scenario, this is before free agency, this is before trades, so there's a lot that can change between now and the next few weeks. But if we look at the roster as is and assume that, for the most part, this is the roster that they're going to enter the season with, which means UC Saros is on the team, they are never going to be bad enough as long as he's there, as you said. And to me, this roster's best case scenario is being the kind of team they were this past season, which was a fringe playoff team that stays competitive maybe until the final week of the regular season, either makes it or doesn't.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, you look at the draft. We know that Connor Bedard is going number 1. Now, number 2, there are plenty of options for the Anaheim Ducks at number 2. It seems that the consensus is that Adam Fantilli of the University of Michigan will go number 2. Now, he is projected to be a number one franchise center in the NHL. He would be going number 1 in any other year that he wasn't in the same draft class as Connor Bedard. And the Anaheim Ducks might be set there for the next 10 to 15 years. And, the number 1 center of the Vegas Golden Knights was Jack Eichel. And the Sabres paid a hefty price. The Golden Knights paid a hefty price for Jack Eichel. Alex Tuck, who's been a first-line player for the Sabres, Peyton Krebs, who was a top prospect. I think there was more involved in that trade, but those were the two main players. They had to give up good players to get a player like Jack Eichel, who the reason why he may have come so quote-unquote cheap is because we didn't know what his career was going to look like.
Yeah, to have surgery.
He had to have surgery that had never been done on an NHL player. Now, it worked out incredibly well for them. He led them in scoring during the Stanley Cup playoffs, but there was a ton of risk that the Golden Knights were taking in trading for Jack Eichel because the Sabres didn't want to allow Eichel to have that surgery.
Right.
So, there's sort of an asterisk in acquiring Eichel there. So, there really is no surefire way to get that guy, that number one franchise center. But it seems like the quote-unquote easiest or most logical is to be bad enough that you hope you draft someone like Adam Fantilli one day. But the Predators are not prepared to do that, so you're going to have to be prepared to have Juuso Parssinen or someone like that as your number one center. Which, I liked what I saw from Parssinen.
We'll see.
We'll see, but is Parssinen going to be a guy who's going to be your first line center for the next 8 to 10 years?
It's hard for me to get there yet.
I don't think. I was going to say I don't think so, but I definitely don't know.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. 615-737-1025. We'll take your thoughts on the Preds. How does Barry Trotz and the Predators go about trying to build a championship roster based on where they are right now? And coming up next, we'll continue the conversation on the goaltender part of it. How big of a factor is that decision going to be with UC Saros? Could a decision on that come this offseason? We'll get into all that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5-106.3 The Game.
The Titans offseason program has come to an end. What other roster tweaks can GM Rand Carthon and head coach Mike Vrabel make before training camp?
Not just taking a guy to fill a need. We want to get the right people.
We'll continue to kind of look through where we're at.
Talking Titans? Keep it locked to Nashville's best Titans talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
The Electronic Express 4th of July sale is here. Celebrate with up to 40% off in every department. Don't miss an LG 75-inch 4K TV for only $699 or an Amana laundry pair for just $399 each. Get huge savings on computers, appliances, 4K TVs, smart home, furniture and mattresses, and more. Get an Asus laptop for only $599 or a Napoleon Freestyle grill for $549. Get up to 3 years free financing throughout the entire store. Electronic Express. We make it happen.
Joe Rexrode here to tell you about PhD weight loss because 6 weeks, I'm down 20. I feel great. I'm loving the food items. And by the way, they provide 85% of the food at no extra cost. No pills, no gimmicks, no other suppressants. It feels good and it feels sustainable. And that is obviously a huge thing for people who want to lose weight and keep it off. One thing about PhD, it's a plateau busting program. You know what I'm talking about. You get to that plateau, you kind of stall out, you want to quit. Look, this with accountability, support, education, one-on-one weekly coaching, you're learning what's happening with your nutritionist, getting rid of the visceral fat in your body, and this really helps you keep going. It is simple and easy. Again, like I said, the weekly discussions with your coach, you don't have cravings, you don't have any crap you're putting in your body, and there's a guarantee. If you don't get within 5 pounds of your target weight at the end of the program, PhD will continue to coach you for free until you do. Join me. Check it out. Visit myphdweightloss.com.
Hey, Tennessee, we're Zen Sports, the new sportsbook in town. We listen to your feedback on our competitors, so we designed Zen Sports just the way you wish. Set favorites, search and sort bets, and earn real cash rewards, saving you time and money with every bet you make. Find the bets you want, not those distracting bets that seem too good to be true but rarely are. Best of all, withdraw your winnings in under 24 hours. So take control of your bets, because with Zen Sports, betting just got better. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 and up and in Tennessee to bet.
Catch all the NASCAR action this weekend on 102.5 The Game, Nashville's racing station, brought to you by Richmar Florists. Catch the action Friday with the NASCAR Truck Series, then Saturday the NASCAR Xfinity Series, and the Ally 400 Cup Series Sunday. Richmar Florists, Pennsylvania built, Tennessee strong.
Bon appetit. Take some Titans.
Derrick Henry.
Some Preds.
Roman Yossi.
Even some hoops.
Light fires. Wow.
Put it in a blender. And what do you have? Chase and Michelle.
Pretty incredible.
Call or text and weigh in.
The fastest 2 hours in sports radio. Weekday mornings at 9 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey, Nashville, it's Mike Greenberg, and you're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Catch the Rackley Roofing 200, Tennessee Lottery 250, and Ally 400 coming up on 102.5, 106.3 The Game, June 23rd through 25th. Coverage presented by Richmar Florist, a top 100 florist company in the country and a proud sponsor of Nashville Super Speedway. Taking your thoughts, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025, our phone number. Robbie Stanley, Adam Vingan, Michelle Knezovic here with you on this Monday morning. How did the Nashville Predators go about building a championship roster? And what could that look like this offseason in terms of some of the moves that they make, maybe some of the moves that they don't make? And Adam, it feels like every time we have this discussion about the Predators and the direction that they're going and how you get to a place where you're ultimately competing for a Stanley Cup championship again, we always come back to the goaltender. And what do you do with the goaltending situation that they have? And obviously, we know what UC Saros is at this point. He's one of the best goalies in the league. He's in an incredibly team-friendly deal right now. I think we also know that by the time his deal's up in a couple of years, he's going to make a ton of money. He's going to be making, I don't know. I mean, you tell me, anywhere from 9.5, somewhere in that neighborhood.
You know, it's interesting because Connor Hellebuck is probably going to be traded this offseason.
Yep.
There's going to be a lot of moves in Winnipeg, big moves. And he's on the final year of his contract. He makes just over $6 million on his cap hit, and he's probably going to make upwards of $9 million. So it would not shock me if UC Saros, if he continues to play like this, could fetch somewhere around there. Maybe under 9, but it's pretty amazing that there are, let's see here, there are 12 goalies in the NHL next season who have a higher cap hit than UC Saros.
Yeah.
Carey Price, Sergei Bobrovsky, Andrei Vasilevsky, John Gibson, Matt Murray, Connor Hellebuck, Jacob Markstrom, Jordan Binnington, Philip Grubauer, Igor Shesterkin, Elvis Merzlikins, and Darcy Kemper.
It's pretty incredible.
I mean, I would say UC Saros is better than 9 of them. Maybe
for sure. Yeah.
So it's a great contract. But I mean personally, I would not sign UC Saros to another contract past this one. Like I think they need to trade him. I've been pretty adamant about this. I know you've been on that particular bandwagon as well. I just think that they're not going to be competitive while he is still under contract for 2 more years at this price. And if anything, he might be a detriment to actually getting them to where they need to go in order to find the players that we've been talking about.
Well, let me make that clear because I'm with you. Like I've kind of laid out why I'd be hesitant to pay him, and it really has nothing to do with him. Like
no, he's a great
player,
but he's too good, is what I'm saying.
Well, and just in terms of building your roster moving forward. This is really the question you got to ask yourself if you're Barry Trotz and you're the Predators making these decisions. Do you want to invest $9 million, $9.5 million, whatever that annual average value would be, whatever that cap hit would be, in UC Saros at that position? And yes, you know what you're going to get. He's going to be really good. He's one of the best goalies in the league, and maybe it's worth it. I mean, I've had people tell me, I mean, he's a known product. Why would you not do it? And look, I can listen to that. That's fine. I don't think that's a crazy thought by any stretch of the imagination. Or would you rather take some of that money and instead of investing it in a goaltender, you use the first-round pick that you've already used on a goaltender, see what he is. I think he's going to be pretty good. Maybe he's not as good as UC Saros. Maybe he is. We'll see. But honestly, Adam, if you use the money the right way and you build a good team around him, like he doesn't have to be as good as UC Saros. I think we've seen that where teams can win championships without having to have your quote-unquote elite goaltender. Aiden Hill just won a championship with the Vegas Golden Knights, and I don't think people would classify him as an elite goaltender.
No, absolutely not. I mean, he was not dressed for their first game of the playoffs.
No.
Laurent Brossoit was the starting goaltender, and Jonathan Quick was the backup.
Exactly.
And I think after that, Hill became the backup. I think Quick did not dress again. Actually, he did once Brossoit got hurt. But yeah, Aiden Hill, literally a healthy scratch in the Golden Knights' first playoff game against Winnipeg in the first round. I mean, the other thing that they could do, one thing I'm interested in is the Predators have 13 draft picks.
Correct.
Which is the most of any team. And I can't imagine that they're going to use all of them. So they've got 2 first-round picks. They've got their own and the one from Edmonton that they got from Matthias Ekholm.
Yep.
They have 2 second-round picks, their own and the one from Pittsburgh. This makes me laugh. The one from Pittsburgh that they got from Mikael Granlund.
Just amazing.
Oh, my gosh. They have 2 third-round picks, one from San Jose, I believe, in maybe the Luke Cunnin trade last summer, and then one from Tampa Bay in the Tanner Jeannot deal, and 3 fourth-round picks. I mean, you could package any number of those picks. So they have 3 second-round picks next season.
Yep.
So if you want to get into that, if you want to move up in the draft into the top 10 or maybe even the top 5, I'm not sure. Those trades don't often happen, I feel like, historically, where teams jump up significantly like that. But if you want to, they absolutely have the ammunition to do so.
That's the thing. Like, they don't often happen that way, but there's not a lot of teams that usually have 13 picks heading into the draft either, right? So that is, and Barry Trotz has talked about that. And, we keep going back to the goaltender part of this. I do feel like at some point they're going to have to make a decision on, are they paying UC Saros or are they going with Yaroslav Askarov? Because to me, like, if you're paying UC Saros, like, you got to trade Askarov at that point, right? I mean, I guess you don't have to, but you're just going to let him sit there as a backup goalie and not get anything for him at some point?
You don't use a premium draft pick on a goaltender and then never use him. Like,
right.
And I know that the history of goaltenders drafted in the first round, it's checkered, to say the least. Anyone remember Chet Pickard by chance?
Yes.
But that's what I'm saying is if you draft Askarov to be the next guy, now you do not need UC Saros to become Pekka Rinne, like, and be the starting goaltender here for 15 years. I mean, it would be great, but I don't think that's realistic. And I'm looking at the teams in the, so the Predators, their first pick in the draft is 15th.
Yep.
I'm looking at the teams in the top 10. Of course, Chicago 1, Anaheim 2, Columbus 3, San Jose 4, Montreal 5, Arizona 6, Philadelphia 7, Washington 8, Detroit 9, St. Louis 10. Like, you don't think you could convince one of those teams maybe 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? Here, we'll give you an extra first-round pick. We'll give you an extra second-round pick if you let us move up 7 spots, 8 spots.
I think you could.
I think you could. I mean, if that might be the way that they have to do it, is by using all of those picks, and you can thank Tanner Jeannot for that.
Yes,
that ultimately happens. Using all those picks to move up. I mean, if they want to get that type of player, honestly, that might be the best course of action.
Could be. Cam on the text line says, the way the Preds handle Saros will tell the fan base truly what the plan is. If Saros stays, it's probably a retool. If Saros is dealt, then we are rebuilding. Personally, I'm on board with trading Saros. The question is, could you get more at the draft or at this coming year's deadline? This is from Cam on the text line.
I'd say at the draft.
I think I said this last week, and I stand by it. I don't think UC Saros' value will ever be higher than it is right now.
No.
And the reason I say that is not because I expect his play to drop off, but just where his contract is. He's got 2 years left on his deal. I think he'll never have a higher value than he does right now, just based on what his contract looks like. Now, that also doesn't mean that the Predators are going to trade him. Look, I mean, Adam, if I had to guess right now, my guess is that it's going to be pretty simple and that UC Saros is the goaltender for this team next year, and that by the time training camp rolls around, that he's the guy, and he's going to be the goaltender next year, and maybe a decision comes after that. We'll have to wait and see. But we do know that the LA Kings have inquired on UC Saros back before the trading deadline this past season. I would imagine that there will be general managers, if they have not already, calling Barry Trotz and trying to get their thoughts on, all right, what would it take to get him? Like, what would it take to acquire UC Saros? And maybe it happens this offseason. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe deep down, Barry Trotz has no interest whatsoever in trading UC Saros. I have no idea. But I do think that will be for teams like in LA that could use a goalie, I think that'll be a very popular topic of conversation at the draft this summer.
I mean, at the end of the day, UC Saros, he was not a Vezina Trophy finalist this season. He probably should have been. I think we can both assume he'll probably finish top 5 in the voting when it's released next week.
Yes.
That would mean a 6th place finish, a 3rd place finish, and a top 5 finish in the Vezina Trophy over 3 consecutive years.
It's pretty good.
And remember all of the goalies I just listed that are making more money than UC Saros next season. Would you rather have UC Saros over Philip Grubauer or Jordan Binnington or Elvis Merzlikins? I think the answer is unequivocally yes.
Yes.
The team that I'm really wondering about, and this is completely, speculation, a team that needs a goalie that's on the cusp. We've talked a lot about Los Angeles. The other one I think about a lot is New Jersey.
Yep.
New Jersey had a great season. They're an up-and-coming team. They can score. They're fast. They don't have a good goaltender. They have Vitek Vanacek, who was he was a cast-off by the Washington Capitals. He had a fine season during the regular season, but he lost his job in the middle of the playoffs to Akira Schmidt, who had never started a playoff game in his career, an NHL playoff game in his career. So, if I put UC Saros on the team with Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier and Jesper Bratt and all these other really good players, I think that's a pretty darn good team.
Me too.
I wonder about New Jersey in this. And, of course, who's the general manager of the New Jersey Devils?
Tom Fitzgerald.
Tom Fitzgerald. So, obviously, a relationship there between Barry Trotz and Tom Fitzgerald. So, I personally wonder a lot about the New Jersey Devils and whether, if there is going to be a trade, if they would be a good partner.
That's really interesting. Rob on the text line says, here are my thoughts on the Preds. This season, they will go above expectations and make the playoffs and make some noise. They will be energized, and the older players will play well because they've got a young group forcing them to do so. Then they'll continue to do this for 15 more seasons. This is from Rob on the text line. Well, not very much optimism at the end of that one from Rob.
No, I was like, where's this going? And then you got to the end. I'm like, okay. Gotcha. I was about to say, did Rob partake at Bonnaroo?
Well, maybe so.
With Joe Rexrode?
Maybe so.
Joe, if you're listening, you're probably not. Just text us. Let us know you're okay.
Make sure you're okay.
Yes. Just let us know you're okay, please.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. 615-737-1025. We'll take more of your thoughts on the Preds. We'll continue the discussion on the offseason ahead for the Predators and the long-term plan. How do the Predators get back to building a championship roster with Barry Trotz taking over as general manager? We'll continue that discussion coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5-106.3 The Game.
He knows the ins and outs of the Titans and isn't afraid to give his opinion.
Traylon Burks needs a massive offseason.
He's Jonathan Hutton of Outkick.
I don't see how they make a move without going to Ryan Tannehill.
Catch him every Monday at 10:30 on Chase and Michelle, and every Wednesday at noon on Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace. Hutton is on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Heard that phrase, less is more? Well, at Harbor Freight, it's more for less. That's why everything in our store is priced affordably. Whatever you do it for less at Harbor Freight. And now, when you buy a Bauer 20-volt battery and charger for $99.98, you'll get to choose a select Bauer 20-volt tool to go with it for free. Yep, more for less. Harbor Freight. Offer and pricing valid in-store and on in-stock items only from now until June 30th. While supplies last, selection varies by location. Cannot be combined with other discounts or promotions. Free tool limited to select items only.
Upgrade our diamond ring this summer with no money down and zero interest for 5 years. Don't miss this killer offer from Genesis Diamonds. 5 years, zero interest financing. Not just on engagement rings, earrings, bracelets, bands, colored gemstone jewelry, pre-owned Rolex watches. Buy now, pay nothing down, and spread your payments over 5 years with zero interest. So that $5,000 gift comes out to just $85 a month. And that luxury pre-owned Rolex Submariner, Datejust, or Explorer starts at only $150 a month. Now through July 1st at Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs. On approved credit, see store for details.
The spring menu is here at Kitchen Notes in the Omni Nashville Hotel, featuring their signature cast iron pie with herb roasted chicken, English peas, carrots, potato, simple greens, and a toasted biscuit crumble topping. Or garden succotash with snap peas, black-eyed peas, roasted peppers, sweet corn, tomato, and caramelized onion. Or try the steak fritas with pan-seared ribeye. Kitchen Notes in the Omni Nashville Hotel, open daily till 2 with brunch Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 7 till 2.
Does this sound familiar? Did your agent provide excellent entertainment with their TikTok videos and constant social media posts about themselves while completely ignoring that you hired them to sell your home? Did they tell you how wonderful they were? How many followers they had? They probably never sold your home, but hey, they did get 15 likes on their selfies. Hashtag my clients love me. Don't let that happen to you. Google TJ Anderson Homes and see why the only likes we care about are our clients loving our service. Ask us about our prepay with TJ option and how it can save you thousands. TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty. Office number 615-432-2919.
If you missed the latest from Stillman and Company.
Former NFL General Manager Mark Dominic joins us now on the program.
I look at the Tennessee Titans, Jared, and I'm like,
they can win the South. They can. I think they need one or two more pieces. Are they a complete team? Maybe not, unless they, everybody kind of stays healthy and they get this thing going. But I think Coach Vrabel does a great job, and I think if I could have DeAndre Hopkins here with Traylon Burks, I just think that would be a very difficult group to deal with. You got Chig at tight end, who's coming along last year towards the end of the season, and your running back room is amazing. So you got a veteran quarterback. I think the Titans are kind of put in position right now, the way they're built, that they should go get DeAndre Hopkins, because that quarterback room is still going to be up in the air, and we're going to see what happens in the future. But maybe they don't have the right quarterback on the roster for 2024, and I think they've got a good enough roster in 2023 to be better than Jacksonville.
Stillman and Company, weekdays from 2 to 6 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. You're locked into Robby and Rexrode.
Every morning, first thing.
Presented by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Adam Vingan, Michelle Knezovic here with you on this Monday morning. We are taking your thoughts on the Preds. 615-737-1025 on our phone and text lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. How do the Predators go about building a championship roster as Barry Trotz takes over the long-term plan with this team? One of the other interesting parts of this, Adam, is, and I've been thinking about this recently, what exactly is Cody Glass? Because I don't know that I know yet. I mean, he's been obviously a late bloomer. He's gone through some injuries in his career. He was drafted 6th overall by the Vegas Golden Knights, and last year was really, I guess, his first full season in the NHL where he's been playing a significant role. And look, the numbers by no means are going to blow you away. He's got 14 goals, 21 assists, 35 points. So I don't know that I know that he was drafted 6th overall. I don't know that I'm sitting here today on June the 19th as we're discussing this a week out from the draft, thinking to myself, well, you don't need to worry about finding a number one centerman because it's going to be Cody Glass for the Predators moving forward. I don't know that I'm willing to go there. But like, how good can he be? Like, is he a Ryan Johansson type player? Is he a, Matt Duchene type player? Is he worse than that? Like, what exactly does he project to be long term? He's 24 years old, so like I said, a little bit of a late bloomer in terms of, getting to the place where people expected him to be in the NHL. But, what is Barry Trotz's honest assessment of Cody Glass and where he is and ultimately what he could be? A lot of people text us about Tommy Novak, wondering what he could be. Like, sometimes we forget, like, Tommy Novak's 26 years old. He's not 19 years old, so very rarely do you see players take huge jumps from that at that point. So it's a long way of me saying there are a couple of interesting guys that they've got down the middle right now. I don't know that I would buy that any of them are the true number one type of guys. You brought up Parsonen earlier. I mean, he skates well. He's got good size. He's interesting to me, but I don't know exactly what specifically Glass and Parsonen ultimately are going to be as of right now. We sit here today.
Well, here's where I sit on the Cody Glass thing. I had forgotten about him until you mentioned him. Like, when you're like, oh, let's talk about Cody Glass. I'm like, oh yeah, Cody Glass. And look, Cody Glass, I thought had a nice bounce back season last season once he was in the lineup regularly. But I didn't see a player last season that was like, wow, this guy is the future. I think he had his moments. Same with Parsonen. With Tommy Novak, I've always thought, I've thought that he is going to be the next Colton Sissons. Like, Tommy Novak is going to be, the bottom six center that will be in your lineup every game for the next however long. Once Colton, how many more years does Colton Sissons have on this contract? At least a couple.
He's got multiple. Yeah.
Yeah. That was a unique contract when he signed it. He is under contract for 3 more years. Yeah. Colton Sissons.
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine that it's hard to believe that Colton Sissons. He's got to be close to 30, right?
I believe he is
he's 29. He'll be 30 in November. Oh my God. So Colton's like, I feel like Tommy Novak is sort of the next Colton Sissons.
Okay.
Like when Sissons moves on, I think Novak takes over that role as the anchor of a third or fourth line. Glass, I think, can be a perfectly adequate top six center, but I don't think he answers the question that we were having before, which is how does this team get a center like the ones in the ones that the top teams in the league have?
Yeah.
And we mentioned how the Golden Knights were built. Let's go back to the previous season with the Colorado Avalanche. How was that team built? Through the draft.
Yep.
By being bad. Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar and Gabriel Landeskog didn't play. Mikko Rantanen, well, he did that play that year. He played the play that year, but no, he's not going to play this year either, which sucks. But anyway, the point being that they were bad, and they were bad enough that they were able to draft those types of players, including Nathan McKinnon, who is he's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I remember, and I bet you feel this way too, Robbie. Jared and I talk about this a lot. When the Predators played the Avalanche in the first round of the 2018 playoffs, the Predators won that series in 6 games. But when that series was over, you could tell that the Avalanche were starting to build something special.
Absolutely.
And the Predators caught them, as they were still trying to come into their own.
Well, by the way, you could tell that, and that was before Cale Makar ever stepped foot on the ice for him, too.
That is true. Yep. I mean, that was also Andrew Hammond in net.
Yeah.
Not Alexander Georgiev or Darcy Kemper, but it's just, now that I think more about it, I think that the Predators should be very aggressive at the draft in packaging as many of those draft picks as they can to move up into the top 10 of the draft. Like, to me, I don't know. I'll have to look at mock drafts. Admittedly, I'm not like a huge NHL prospect guy in the sense that when you know who's going to be good. We know Connor Bedard. We've been hearing his name for a long time.
Yeah.
Adam Fantilli. But a lot of the other guys like Leo Carlson or, I've never seen them play. So I'm not going to pretend that I know everything about them. But all of the draft experts say they're good. It's different. Sorry, I just muted myself.
Filling in for Rexrode very nicely.
That's the first time I've muted myself in a while.
You're doing well.
That's the first time I muted myself in a long time.
That is true.
I thought I was about to cough, but then I didn't. And then anyway. It's not like the NBA or the NFL where if you watch college basketball or college football, you know these guys.
Right.
You've seen
exactly.
them play. So I can't say, who's going to be good and who's not going to be good. But, there might be a center available in that range that can become that center. Maybe I'll look at it up during the break. But to me, I just think that, if the Predators are not going to be bad, they're not going to tank. They're not going to put themselves in a position to win the draft lottery. I think that they should use as many of these picks as they can to move up, whether that means they package the 24th pick and multiple second-round picks or a first-round pick later in a different draft. That's something I think they need to seriously consider.
Well, and Barry Trotz has talked about, go find me some guys that can get people out of their seats. He said, I can find third and fourth liners all day long if you need me to. Go find some guys that can get me out of their seats is what he's told his scouts. So we'll see whether or not the Predators can do that. As far as the team is currently constructed now, there's always kind of 2 names that come up, and that's Ryan Johansson and Matt Duchene. And James on the text line says, is there any way out from the Johansson contract that makes any sense at all? This is the question from James on the text line. And, we talked about the idea of buying him out that the Predators could have done. They've not done that.
I don't think they should.
And I don't think they should. Like, I don't think it makes any sense. At this point, what would you rather do? Would you rather just eat it for the next 2 years and then have that contract completely off your books? Or would you rather have bought him out and then you're paying on it for 4 more years, and albeit it's at a less cap, it's at a less restrictive cap hit at that point, but you're also adding a couple of years to the payment. I just think with where they are with their team right now, I think it makes more sense to just ride it out with the contract of Ryan Johansson. He's got 2 years left. And, you hope he plays well in those 2 years. You hope that there's, a little bit of urgency on his part, knowing that he's not just going to have some top 6 spot guaranteed to him anymore walking into training camp. Maybe that creates some urgency. But if not, it's 2 years, and then it's off your books, and you move on at that point. I just the more I thought about it, the buyout part of it didn't make a ton of sense. And as far as a deal, there's nobody that's going to take that contract.
I mean, if you want to buy him out, you can maybe do it next season when you only have to, right now, if you buy him out, you have a dead cap hit for 4 years.
Exactly.
And you're already paying Kyle Turris $2 million per season until 2028.
Right.
So that would be roughly $5 million of dead cap space because of buyouts for the next 4 years, and
it just didn't make a whole lot of sense.
It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. If you bought him out next summer, you'd have a cap. It'd be 2 years instead of 4. So maybe you consider it next summer, but I don't think you would do it now. And you're right. I don't think anybody's going to take that contract. I wouldn't give up a premium asset to convince someone to take it or retain salary or anything like that. So, yeah, I mean, I think at this point, the cap, hopefully, is going up soon. You've got plenty of cap space, even with that contract. I think you just, as you said, ride it out and just, play Ryan Johansson for the next 2 years and let him go after that. I mean, it just, even though you might save some money against the cap this summer by buying him out, you'll pay for it down the line.
Well, and also like the free agent class this summer, it's not like the Predators are going to be aggressive in free agency this summer. The free agent class sucks. Like it's awful this summer.
And so Matthew from Jolton says, personally, I'd go after Ryan O'Reilly, who I believe is one of the UFAs on the market.
I don't think the Predators where they're at right now.
I don't think you need a Ryan O'Reilly.
I don't think you need a Ryan O'Reilly.
He's still a very good player. I mean, but would I want a 32-year-old Ryan O'Reilly to be my number one center? No, I wouldn't.
Well, I'll be honest with you. Unless you're making a depth move, and I'm talking like a last pairing defenseman or a third or fourth liner this summer, I have no interest if I'm Barry Trotz signing anybody over the age of 30. Like I just don't think that makes any sense with where their roster is right now.
Yeah, and you've seen the types of players that we've seen 2 moves involving defensemen in the NHL, 2 trades. We saw Damon Severson in a sign and trade from New Jersey to Columbus, and a 3-team trade that led to Ivan Provorov ending up from the Flyers to the Blue Jackets. But I'm just looking at the UFAs this summer, and man, it's
not very good.
Ryan O'Reilly is on that list. Patrick Kane, James Van Riemsdyk. Yeah, like all of the top UFAs are in their early to mid 30s. Like I would stay away from that absolutely. And there was already one buyout in the NHL. Oliver Ekman-Larsson bought out by the Vancouver Canucks over the weekend. For example, would I take a flyer? Like maybe I would take a flyer, not like a Philadelphia Flyer, but I would take a flyer on Max Pacioretty. Like he basically missed all of last season. He had a torn Achilles. He came back and
he's going to cost you hardly nothing.
He's going to cost you hardly nothing. And when he's healthy, he's a proven goal scorer. I remember last summer when they traded him for future considerations, we were like, why didn't the Predators get in on that?
Right.
I mean, if you want to take a flyer on a 1 or 2 year deal, like a Nino Niederreiter type deal for Max Pacioretty, I'd consider that. But I'm even looking at the defense. Ekman-Larsson is now available. John Klingberg, Eric Johnson, Jake Gardner, Kevin Shattenkirk. I would agree. Like there really is no free agent out there, UFA specifically, that I would be interested in signing if I'm the Predators.
We'll get back into this coming up a little bit later in the show. Take your thoughts on the Preds, 615-737-1025. We'll get back into the offseason plan for the Nashville Predators a little bit later in the program with Adam Vingan. Coming up next, we will switch gears, get into the Tennessee Titans, and take a look at their offense, specifically with their quarterback. If the conditions have improved around Ryan Tannehill, how good do we think he can still be? We'll take your thoughts on that as well. 615-737-1025. That's up next. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5-106.3 The Game.
All the big plays.
Henry up the middle. Looks a little move. 10, 5, touchdown.
All the big stories.
Should the Titans go after DeAndre Hopkins?
All in one place. We are Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3.
Touchdown, Tennessee!
I want to give you the best players.
Does he want to retire a Tennessee Titan?
The door's on the board.
The Game and the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
3 days of racing, 3 days of music, one huge weekend event. The Big Machine Music City Grand Prix is not just a race or a festival, it's an experience. Multiple music stations with Flo Rida, Vince Neil, Chris Jansen, Gavin DeGraw, and more. Fast cars going over 200 miles an hour. And a family fun zone with inflatables, Ferris wheels, kids games, and kid-friendly food trucks. Tickets and premium hospitality are on sale now. Go to MusicCityGP.com for tickets and get ready to experience Nashville's premier speed and sound event.
If you're hiring, it can feel like you're trying to find a needle in a haystack. You can hope the right person comes along, or you can just use ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. In fact, ZipRecruiter has helped a lot of business owners find their needle in a haystack, like Marco, president of operations at Telly Tires and Auto Centers. Because Telly Tires has grown a lot in the last few years, Marco needed to hire everyone from a receptionist to a store manager to a head mechanic.
ZipRecruiter helps me find all the right people, even the most difficult jobs to fill. ZipRecruiter helps me keep my business running.
Take it from Marco and millions of other businesses who've used ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter can help you find the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
This year, Boys and Girls Club of Middle Tennessee celebrates its 120th anniversary. Through time, BGCMT continues to evolve to enable all young people, especially those who need us most, to reach their full potential as productive, caring, and responsible leaders. Because of your continued support, BGCMT has remained strong and is committed to supporting our youth and solidifying our mission and culture in new exciting ways for 120 years. Visit bgcmt.org today.
Your Game Center update.
I'm Michelle Knezovic. The Tennessee Volunteers win or go home today in Omaha after a 6-3 loss to LSU on Friday. They'll play Stanford today. First pitch at 1 p.m. The winner of this game will advance and play the loser of Wake Forest and LSU. That game will begin at 7 p.m. The NBA announced a 25-game suspension for Ja Morant. Here was ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski on the suspension.
Well, he's out of consideration now, Ja Morant is, for any of those postseason awards. That will kick in with this new collective bargaining agreement. You know, you looked at the Miles Bridges suspension in Charlotte, 30 games. You know, you've got to find some precedent here. And for the league, I think the Players Association, if this was half the season, if this was the entire season, different scenarios people threw out, there wouldn't have been precedent for that. But your history does matter. Ja Morant has been under investigation by the NBA for well over a year on a number of different incidences.
This report is brought to you by the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. I'm Michelle Knezovic for 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
For more, follow us on Twitter at 102.5 The Game or visit theGameNashville.com. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne.
Chase Elliott scores the win in the Ally 400 at the Nashville Super Speedway.
Nashville's exclusive home for NASCAR. 102.5 and 106.3.
Gonna go 3 wide into turn number 1.
The fastest car won the race.
Checkered flag is in the air.
The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Mixing sports and a little bit of fun.
This is fun!
On your morning drive. This is Robby and Rexrode. With Robby Stanley and Joe Rexrode. Presented by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty. On Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's showtime.
Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty, where their advanced pay-by-TJ option can save you thousands when selling your home. Robby Stanley alongside Adam Vingan, Michelle Knezovic here with you on this Monday morning. We're taking your thoughts, 615-737-1025. Gentry Estes from the Tennessean will join us at 7:30. We'll get into Tennessee and their matchup with Stanford coming up later today in an elimination game in Omaha. Go over their loss to LSU over the weekend as well, and Morwich entry. So looking forward to that coming up at 7:30 here on the program. Taking your thoughts, 615-737-1025. So we've talked a lot about the conditions around Ryan Tannehill. We know that Ryan Tannehill is going to be the starting quarterback for the Titans heading into this season. We'll see, what happens with Malik Willis and what happens with Will Levis and how they look in training camp coming up. But Ryan Tannehill, I think, clearly the starter for the Titans as things stand right now. And the offensive line has been changed this offseason. Traylon Burks coming into year 2. We'll see what happens on the DeAndre Hopkins front and whether or not he lands with the Titans or if he's with the Patriots or if he's with somebody else. But let's just say hypothetically that the conditions around Ryan Tannehill have improved and that they're better than they were a year ago, and the offensive line holds up. He's got better protection. Traylon Burks takes the step that people feel like he might be able to take this year, and he turns into a legitimate number 1 option at wide receiver for the Titans. Derrick Henry's still Derrick Henry, and the conditions are much better for Ryan Tannehill. How good do we think he can still be? He's 34 years old. He'll be 35 coming up in July. You look at his numbers a year ago, and albeit if you watched him play and you watched what was going on around him last year, I don't think these numbers will surprise you a whole lot, but nobody's going to look at Ryan Tannehill's numbers from last year and say, man, he played really well. He, 2,500 yards, 13 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He was running for his life a lot. He was playing on one leg a lot last year too, but on the high ankle sprain. So there are a lot of factors that go into the numbers part of it last year for Tannehill. But can he still be a guy that you can win a lot of football games with? Can he be a guy that gives you a chance come playoff time? We know the playoff discussion is kind of its own thing with Ryan Tannehill. Once you get there, is he good enough? Like, can he lead you in a playoff game? Can he take care of the football in a playoff game? Like, all those questions are going to be valid with Ryan Tannehill. But Adam Vingan, as we sit here today, assuming that the conditions do improve around Ryan Tannehill, how good do we think he can still be heading into the age of 35 years old this year for the Titans?
Pro Football Focus last month had a ranking of all of the starting quarterbacks in the NFL ahead of this coming season, and they had Ryan Tannehill at 19th.
Yep.
Which seems right around where I would have put him. Somewhere in the middle of this ranking, and I think, and the point that the article is making is that they think that Tannehill has little chance to prove he is still capable of his best play because of the team around him.
Right.
So if the offensive line improves, which we assume it will because it's not, Dennis Daly is not on the team anymore.
That is correct.
But it's still a relatively unproven offensive line. But we think it should be better. Is it marginally better? How much does that make a difference? If you have a healthy Derrick Henry, still chugging along, and Traylon Burks proves he is a standout number 1 receiver in his second season. You've got Chigakonkwo. We'll see what happens with. We've made it through an hour and 7 minutes without mentioning DeAndre Hopkins. We'll see what happens there if the Titans are.
We can do the whole hour if you want to.
I think I've gotten enough of that last week. But there are reasons to believe he could be better. But I still think the conditions, although they're more favorable than they were last season, I think. I'm not sure how much more favorable they are.
That's a great point.
They seem, like I said, marginally better, but marginally doesn't make a team competitive. So I think the jury is still out. I think there's still a lot to be seen from the players around Ryan Tannehill to make that declaration, but I think it should be better. I just don't think it's going to be that much better where it makes that big of a difference.
Well, and the real question is, like, how much better does it have to be in order for us to see the best version of Ryan Tannehill? Like, is the 2019 version of Ryan Tannehill or the 2020 version of Ryan Tannehill, is that a thing of the past at this point? We know what the conditions were like then. You had Derrick Henry in the absolute prime of his career, at the peak of his powers. You had A.J. Brown, You had Corey Davis on the other side. You had Jonnu Smith. Like, the weapons that he had at his disposal were very good. And, oh, by the way, you had a very good offensive line. At the end of 2019 and the first part of 2020, especially before Taylor Lewan got hurt, you're talking about one of the best offensive lines in football, just by the numbers, both in the run blocking game and the pass blocking game. And that has changed dramatically since then, to the point where last year, every time a quarterback dropped back to pass, whether it was Malik Willis or Josh Dobbs or Ryan Tannehill, you're scared to death that they're going to get crushed out there. So I agree. Like, I think the offensive line's going to be better. Like, I think Andre Dillard, from an ability standpoint, is way more gifted than Dennis Daly is. Now, that doesn't always mean everything, but I think there's talent that's there. I think Brunskill's got some good ability to him. Nicholas Petit-Frere's in year 2. Hopefully there's a jump from year 1 to year 2. So you can talk yourself into the offensive line being significantly better next year for the Titans. But we don't know that. I mean, Andre Dillard didn't start for the Eagles. Daniel Brunskill last year didn't start for the 49ers. Aaron Brewer is going to be your center, and he's never been like the starting center before. It's always been Ben Jones for the Titans in a full season. So how does all that play out? I'm not sure. If it is better and Treylon Burks does take that step, and like you said, we'll see on the DeAndre Hopkins front, then I think the Titans' offense can be much more dangerous than it was a year ago, and that's assuming that Derrick Henry is still Derrick Henry. And I think that's a big part of this too. Like, if he's still Derrick Henry, I know that they've changed their offense, and Tim Kelly's coming in, and they're running a new system, all those things. A lot of this is still going to revolve around Derrick Henry in my mind. And if you got all those things going for you, then I think Ryan Tannehill will have a good season. Now, what is a good season from Ryan Tannehill, and what does it mean for this Titans team? Is a good season from Tannehill enough to compete with Jacksonville in the division? And that's going to ultimately be the question.
I mean, their ground game is their biggest strength. Obviously, they still have Derrick Henry, but I mean, I'm really intrigued by Tajay Spears and what he could bring to the table, and they still have Hassan Haskins. So their running game is still, I think, very good. I mentioned Pro Football Focus and their rankings of quarterbacks. They also have a ranking from, I believe, last month of every starting lineup in the NFL, every projected starting lineup. And where do you think the Tennessee Titans fall in their ranking of starting lineups, projected starting lineups in the NFL?
Just going offensively here?
Yeah. The full thing? Full thing.
Oh, I'll go 18.
25th.
Ooh, it's worse.
They have them as the 25th best, or like 7th or 8th worst starting lineup.
I think people are sleeping on the Titans
in the NFL. No, I mean, I agree. I think the defense should still be quite good, and I think the fact that they play in the AFC South, which we've mentioned, I think helps. So, I think I'm not as concerned about the defense. I'm more looking at the offense, as we've been discussing, and when you think about the number of question marks that have come in, I mean, I know Taylor Lewan was effectively out all of last season, and he's gone. Ben Jones is gone. Nate Davis is gone, and you're replacing them with Peter Skoronski and Aaron Brewer at center. So there are still question marks. According to Pro Football Focus, they were the lowest graded pass blocking offensive line in the NFL. I mean, are they going to get?
I could buy that.
Are they going to get that much better next season? I don't know. I mean, it's going to be, like I said, marginally better is my prediction, but marginally does not get you to where you want to go.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. We'll take your thoughts on the Titans and Ryan Tannehill. If the conditions are improved around Ryan Tannehill, how good can he be? How much do they need to improve for us to see the best version of Ryan Tannehill? We'll get into that coming up next as well. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 102.5-106.3 The Game.
Hey, it's Jared from my friends at Hiller. Hiller's Heat Wave Heroes are keeping you from getting burned this summer. If you know your home needs an air conditioning replacement, do not wait until it breaks down. You do not want to be sweating in your home. This month, get a free UV light and free electronic air cleaner when you buy select new HVAC systems. Or get a whole home water filtration for just $59 a month. Or get a new whole home generator for just $139 a month. Call Hiller's Heat Wave Heroes to save the day. Visit happyhiller.com to book.
Richmar Florist is family-owned and operated since 1955 and one of the top 100 florist companies in the country, providing their customers with quality flowers sourced from around the world and handcrafted floral arrangements. Richmar Florist is a proud sponsor of NASCAR and the Nashville Superspeedway, proudly serving the stars of NASCAR, IndyCar, and Hollywood, such as Elton John, Ozzy Osbourne, Alexander Rossi, Dale Earnhardt Jr., and many more. Learn more at richmarflorist.com. Richmar Florist, Pennsylvania-based, Tennessee strong.
If you missed the latest from Stillman and Company.
Because there were just more seats, and the NCAA gets a higher cut of the gate in the NCAA tournament than they do with anything else. So they just, more money. Or, and I think this is possible too, the selection committee is usually made up of athletic directors and, people that know the game and so on and so forth. And it wouldn't surprise me if those people just don't like Tony Vitello. So those two things made me think that that's why they stuck that super regional out there in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, which I thought was completely unfair. I thought Tennessee should have been hosting. So because they got screwed, I'm glad they won. And so I know people think I hate the Vols, but I'm glad the Vols won and put it right up the keister of the committee who sent them out to Nowheresville and had them play through 18 lightning delays.
Stillman and Company, weekdays from 2 to 6 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
When we talk about tenure at Cromwell Media, the owner of this station, we're not kidding around. This month, we're celebrating 6 teammates who have a combined 85 years of service to our company and our community. They are Rosemary Walters, 26 years, Cindy Marino, 21 years, Lakin King, 14 years, Ace Swartz, 13 years, and Chase McCabe, 11 years. If you'd like to experience what it's like to work for a great company, shoot us a note at together@cromwellmedia.com. That's together@cromwellmedia.com.
Want to see our smiling faces? You can watch us on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live. We are good to go. Presented by Superbook Sports, voted #1 sportsbook in Vegas. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode.
It's part of this nutritious breakfast.
Presented by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. We are streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. Our video streaming brought to you by Superbook. We are live from our 102.5 The Game studio. Brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Gentry Estes from the Tennessean coming up at 7:30. So looking forward to that conversation with him. Right now, taking your thoughts on the Titans and Ryan Tannehill. If the conditions around him have improved, how good do we think Tannehill can still be? You got a texture that says, hopefully good enough to not lose 7 straight games. So I hope they improve that much. It's from a texter.
Well, how many of those games did he actually play in? 5? 4?
I think 5. I think 4.
Yeah, I think he played in 12 total games.
12 total games for sure. I want to say it was 4 that he played.
Was he? He was injured in the Chargers game.
He was injured in the Chargers game.
That was the second time.
He came back and played through it. It was kind of the second time he hurt his foot. I think Malik started the Houston game that they lost.
Yep.
I think Dobbs obviously started the Cowboys game and the Jags game, so 4 of the final 7.
And the Chiefs game.
Yes,
he started.
He started the game. He started the loss to Cincinnati, Philadelphia, Jacksonville, the first Jacksonville, and the Chargers, and did not play in the loss to Houston, the loss to Dallas, and the loss to Jacksonville.
Right. So he was in there for 4 of them.
4 of 7.
And it was on one leg for some of them too. So look, I mean, do I think? You know, we've talked a lot about the Jacksonville part of this, and everybody thinks on paper the division is coming down to either Jacksonville or the Titans. Indy's starting a rookie quarterback, we think. Houston, I think for sure, is starting a rookie quarterback in C.J. Stroud. So, I mean, it's hard to expect, especially with those two rosters and how they looked last year, that Houston and Indy are probably going to be much of a factor in the division, but we'll wait and see.
Minshew magic, baby.
Maybe so. Maybe it's Gardner Minshew from the start, and he just never lets it go. We'll see what happens on that front. But it's probably going to come down to Jacksonville and the Titans. And a lot of people say, well, you know, if Ryan Tannehill stays healthy, Titans still win the division last year. And they probably do. Like, they probably find a way to win one of those games in that stretch if Ryan Tannehill is completely healthy a year ago. Now, I've said this last week, and I stand by it. Like, I think Jacksonville's gotten better. I think Calvin Ridley's going to help them a lot. I like what they've done defensively. And Trevor Lawrence in year 3, I think he's improving. Like, I think he's going to be better next year than he was this past season. And the second half of last year, he's pretty darn good. So I think that's what the Titans have to contend with. I know that Jacksonville's got a first-place schedule and all those things, but I think that Jacksonville is improving. So can the Titans improve enough to the point where with their schedule, with hopefully staying healthy this year, which has been a big if the last couple of years, does that lead to more wins? Like, can the Titans get to a place with their roster where they can get into the 10, 11, 12 win range? Because that's probably what it's going to take to win the AFC South. I mean, I know, you won 7 last year and it came down to the final game. It's very difficult for me to see Jacksonville not being somewhere in the 9, 10, 11 win range. So if you're the Titans, in order to make the playoffs, in order to compete for the division, like, can you find a way to get yourself to 10 wins?
Yeah, I think they absolutely can. And I think the schedule plays a part in that.
I do too.
I'm looking at it right now. They've
your beloved New Orleans Saints. They opened the season with them.
83. I just saw a tweet from the Saints. 83 days until the home opener, which is against the Titans. So 83 days until week 1. Everybody, just put that on your calendar. Yeah, I mean the Saints. Look, I think the Saints should be better this season. They're also playing a weaker division. I think that game is as much of a toss-up as you can imagine. But we look, picking the games off the schedule on paper, how many of those games that the Titans lost 7 in a row did you think they would have lost, at the start of the season? So, but they play Atlanta, they play Carolina, they play Tampa Bay, they play Pittsburgh. They have a relatively easy schedule. So I think that will certainly play a role in it. And I think that the defense is good and the offense can be good enough to win. I think their over-under was like 7.5 wins for the season.
I think so. Which
like
is
they're
kind of wild.
Yeah, take the over.
Take the over on that one. And yeah, I think they can put themselves in a position to win double-digit games. I think they can get to 10. I really do. But would it shock me if they only got to 8? No, it wouldn't. But I think they could easily. Well, easily is maybe not the right word, but I think realistically could get to 10.
Dustin on the text line says, if we stay healthy, we win 3 games we shouldn't because of Vrabel. I think they win 11 with or without Hopkins. This is from Dustin on the text line. I mean, the Vrabel part of this is good. Now, look, Vrabel was coached in a 7-game losing streak too. Now, at some point with your roster, I mean, you just run into, I don't care how good your coach is, or just limitations with what you can do. Like, we talked about Malik Willis. He wasn't ready to be on the field last year. Joshua Dobbs was a good story for the Titans, but Josh Dobbs is not a starting quarterback in the NFL. So that's what you were dealing with at the back half of last year, along with all the injuries on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, it was a mess for the Titans by the time the season came to an end last year. So if that part of it's better this year and the conditions are better for them, I mean, if you're a Titans fan, you may be listening right now and saying, well, they had all these things go wrong last year, and they still won 7 games, and they were right there for the division, all those things, and they just blew up on them. They fired their general manager, the injuries took over, and they lost 7 in a row. That's not going to happen this year. And maybe you're right. I mean, maybe it is as simple as they stay healthier this year, and their schedule being what it is. I mean, they're going to be somewhere in the ballpark of 9 or 10 wins. I still look at the offense, though, and if Ryan Tannehill can stay healthy, that's obviously going to be their best path to winning games. But it's still going to require, I think, Treylon Burks taking a gigantic step this year and Chig Okonkwo taking a big step in order to be on the field more often and to be a big part of their passing game. Like, I still think even if the offensive line is better, and let's say they don't end up with DeAndre Hopkins, like, you have to have those 2 guys specifically. Number 1, stay healthy. And number 2, take big steps from their rookie year. And look, we see guys sometimes that could do that, and they come in their second year and they look like a different player, and sometimes they don't. But like Treylon Burks specifically, when we're talking about the conditions being improved around Ryan Tannehill, well, I look at this receiving room right now, and if Treylon Burks hasn't taken a big step, then this receiving room is not improved around Ryan Tannehill.
Well, when you think of what a big step forward for Treylon Burks is. Let's just talk about in terms of pass, receiving yards.
Okay.
There we go. Are we talking at least 1,000? Like, what are you projecting that you would consider that step forward for Treylon Burks in year 2?
Let's put it to you this way. He played 11 games last year. He had 33 catches for 444 yards.
So does he need to get to at least 900?
A big step forward to me would be, number one, let's be available for 15, 16 games, somewhere in that neighborhood. And number two, I think he needs to catch 70 balls. I don't think – if you're going to be a number one guy in today's NFL, I don't think it's that much of a stretch to expect that you need to be around the 70 catch mark. I'm not asking him to catch 115 or 120 passes like some of your upper echelon elite receivers in the game, but you need to catch 70, 75 balls. I think you need to be flirting with 1,000 yards, whether it's 900, if it's 875, whatever it is, but I think you need to be close to 1,000 yards. I think they need 70-plus catch, 850-plus yards from Treylon Burks this year.
Last season, Juju Smith-Schuster had 78 catches for 933 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Yep.
Would you take that if Treylon Burks had the same line as Juju last season? Would that make you happy?
I'd probably like to see the touchdowns a little higher than that, but yardage-wise, yeah, I'd do it.
T. Higgins last season, 74 catches, 1,029 yards, and 7 touchdowns.
Yeah, I'd take that in a heartbeat.
Yes.
Zero hesitation.
Drake London was a rookie last season. 72 receptions. Maybe Drake London is a good comparison. 72 receptions, 866 yards, and 4 touchdowns.
Yeah,
Or Chris Olave, another rookie. 72 receptions, 1,042 yards, and 4 touchdowns.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You're listing off all these guys, and 70 catches is – I don't think 70 catches is a whole lot to ask for.
Even Adam Thielen had 70 catches last season.
Exactly. So, part of that's staying healthy, right? Treylon Burks played in 11 games last year. So if he played in all 17, he wouldn't have had 70 catches, but he'd have probably had, 45, 50, somewhere in that neighborhood last year.
Mm-hmm.
So if he's taken the step – that you hope that he's taken, that means that he should be open more. He's gotten better. He's healthy and he's available more, and he's I think more importantly just a bigger part of your game plan. If he's taken the step that the coaches want him to take, and he looks good in camp and all these things, he's going to be more of a focal point with their offense. I think 70, 75 catches should be a pretty reasonable expectation. 615-737-1025, our phone number. 615-737-1025. Coming up next, we'll be joined by Gentry Estes from the Tennessean. He is live from Omaha. We'll get his thoughts on Tennessee as they play an elimination game coming up later today against Stanford. That's next. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
The cup has been raised.
In their 6th National Hockey League season, the Vegas Golden Knights have won the Stanley Cup.
And the offseason can officially begin. What's next for the Nashville Predators?
With the Predators, it's 1-for-1. Get those veterans to buy in. UC Saros, could the Predators trade him?
We are your home for Smashville. 102.5 and 106.3, The Game, and the Game Nashville app.
The choice is yours. Wednesdays at 8:45. Brought to you by Jarrett Companies. Now hiring experienced sprinkler experts. Go to JarrettFire.com. JARRETT Fire.com. Jarrett Companies, a company above and beyond industry standards.
Because we work so hard for our customers, people are driving for hours to shop at Genesis Diamonds right now, taking advantage of the lowest interest rate on the planet. 0 interest for 5 years with nothing down. How about a $6,000 GIA certified diamond for just $100 a month? Pear shapes, rounds, even oval diamonds are all included. You can even finance the sales tax. All designer jewelry and all lab-grown diamonds included. Don't miss this amazing opportunity. 5 years, 0 interest financing, exclusively at Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs. Approved credit. See store for details.
Hey, Tennessee, when you bet on Zen Sports, the new sportsbook in town, you get the best reward possible. Cold, hard cash. You bet with your own money, so why accept anything less from your rewards program? With Zen Sports, you earn cash on your bets, cash on your referrals bets, and a welcome bonus in, you guessed it, cash. So stop settling for Vegas rewards when we're in Tennessee. Cash in your old sportsbook for Zen Sports. Your wallet will thank you later. Zen Sports. Betting just got better. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 and up and in Tennessee to bet.
They talk sports.
The Predators get the 2 points, which is obviously what they needed.
They're not making big moves that are jaw-dropping signings in free agency.
They talk life.
Well, I almost just fell down the stairs, so there's that.
My backpack was so heavy, the seatbelt alarm was going off the entire trip.
But most of all, they have a good time.
Here or there.
Yeah.
Chase and Michelle, weekday mornings at 9 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey, this is Pete Weber. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk. ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robbie Stanley alongside Adam Vingan, Michelle Knezovic here with you on this Monday morning. Tennessee in an elimination game later today, taking on Stanford in Omaha. And to help us talk more about that, we go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And welcome in our friend Gentry Estes from the Tennessean, who is live from Omaha. Gentry, good morning. How are you?
Hey, good morning. Good to be with you guys.
Good to have you with us. So, Gentry, we knew heading into the game Saturday that the matchup on paper was going to be pretty tough for Tennessee, and Paul Skeens was on the mound for LSU, and he's been the best pitcher in college baseball all season long, and he looked like it again on Saturday. So, number one, I guess your takeaway from the Vols, the game on Saturday, and the matchup in front of them today as they face elimination in Omaha taking on Stanford.
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it with Skeens. You kind of walk away from that. That wasn't, to me, about Tennessee playing poorly. That was about Paul Skeens being the pitcher he's been all year and a future major league star. I mean, really, I think you go back to maybe like a Steven Strasburg to see a pitcher who's been that dominant the way he has been. And you knew that going into the game. But, that said, Tennessee gave themselves a chance late when they finally got Skeens out of the game and they were working against the bullpen, yet the game-tying run coming up with Christian Moore in the eighth inning, and, it was a strikeout. That was the one real opportunity Tennessee had. They weren't able to capitalize on it. But, I think Paul Skeens would have done that to any team here. So, not the best luck drawing him right out the gate, but Tennessee did have a chance, and they didn't make a run late, which it seems like every team here has been doing. I think every game in Omaha to this point has been one run, decided by one run, except Tennessee's. So a lot of close games, and I would expect the same today.
Well, and today, I mean, Gentry, now your back's against the wall if you're the Vols, but you got the pitching that we've talked about all year with Dolander and Burns coming out of the bullpen. You've got Beam available to you at some point. So how big of a strength, now that we know, and Tennessee's in the loser's bracket and they're going to have to take the hard way out, how big of a strength do you think their pitching could be for them starting today against Stanford?
Yeah, I mean, I think the longer Tennessee is able to play in this, the more it's going to really help them to have the pitching they have. But, you got to get through today. I think there's something to be said for the fact that, LSU threw their guy, but Tennessee hasn't quite thrown theirs yet in terms of Dolander, but also you haven't seen Chase Burns yet. You mentioned Drew Beam would go in the third game, so I think there's definitely some big time arms out there for Tennessee, and to win this time of year, you need your top guys to be top guys, and that's what Tennessee definitely needs from Chase Dolander today. Going against Quinn Matthews, Stanford held back their ace from the first game.
Yep.
He's a lefty, which is a little bit of a concern if you're Tennessee. They've struggled a little more against lefties this year. Matthews kind of profiles as the type of pitcher that has given Tennessee trouble this season, so it would not surprise me to see a pretty low-scoring game, and they're going to need a strong performance from Dolander and a performance probably where he goes pretty deep into the game.
Well, and Gentry, I mean, you said it. We knew on Saturday that, Skeens has been the best player in the country, and that it was probably going to be a big challenge for this Tennessee lineup, and it was. But overall, through the regional, the super regional, and now as we sit here today and they're facing elimination, what do you make of where this lineup is right now and your confidence level that they can come through with a big performance today as well?
They came in playing pretty well, and I don't know how much you're concerned or you think it's going to be a lasting problem that you had trouble with Paul Skeens.
Right.
That was such a tough matchup that I think we still don't really know. And I feel like Tennessee did late in the game get some things going. Hunter Ensley had a real good game, but again, it's the same kind of discussion. They need their top guys to be top guys. And going into that game against LSU, Christian Moore, Zane Denton, and Blake Burke, I think, had 9 of their 11 home runs in the NCAA tournament. And against LSU, those guys went 0 for 11 and struck out 7 times. So you're going to need your top guys to make an impact. Tennessee's the kind of team that, they can manufacture runs, but they're probably a little bit better off with the 3-run home run. And this isn't a ballpark that you can necessarily count on that. It's a lot bigger dimensions. And, so I think they're going to have to string some hits together and find ways to score runs, consistently without necessarily relying on the big shot to get them back in a game.
What's the fan base look like out there? A lot of Tennessee fans in Omaha?
Yeah, a good number. They were outnumbered by LSU, but everybody's outnumbered by LSU. Yeah. There was more purple and gold than any other team, I think, to this point. I think the Jello shot board is pretty
it's ridiculously lopsided.
Yeah, LSU's taking care of business there.
LSU's the clear favorite for that.
Clear favorite, yes.
Yeah, but I would imagine Tennessee will outnumber Stanford pretty significantly.
Gentry Estes from the Tennessean with us here on Robby and Rexrode. So, Gentry, we were talking about the Titans just a few minutes ago and just the weight on Treylon Burks heading into this year. As the roster currently stands, we'll see what happens on the DeAndre Hopkins front. But what have been your impressions from Burks so far through the offseason, and how big of a step forward do you think is going to be required from him this year if this offense is going to look significantly better?
I mean, a huge step, and you guys are talking about it, and I think I think you're going to see that from I've been awfully encouraged this offseason, as have the Titans, by what Treylon Burks has done. Being around the team, I think a lot of his issue this time last year probably had to do with conditioning and the breathing issues, and they found a good way to manage that, and I think he's in really good shape, having worked around the team for an entire offseason, and I think he's going to be a much better receiver this year. Now, is that going to be good enough to be the number one in an offense where there really isn't a number two to take defensive attention away from you and have to deal with that week in, week out? I think that's going to be the question. But I think in terms of ability, I think he is the kind of guy that could be a number one receiver in the NFL. I think he still could be as good as the Titans thought he was when they drafted him. But my gosh, you need DeAndre Hopkins, don't you? I mean, that totally changes, I think, the perception for Burks and really that whole offense.
Well, that's where I was going to go with it. So as you look at the Hopkins situation, how big of a difference maker do you think he could be for the Titans, and how much do you think he's worth? If you're the Titans, if you're the Patriots, if you're a team out there that wants his services, what do you think a guy like Hopkins is worth?
I don't know. It's probably not as much as he's thinking that at this point. And you see these things drag on. You remember the Jadeveon Clowney summer that kept going, and then they finally eventually worked out a deal. I don't know if this is going to go like that, but it does feel like what he wants isn't what he's being offered at this point. And if I'm the Titans, I'd be real tempted to try to throw some money into that. I don't know if Hopkins himself is going to prove to be worth it at this time in his career. I think there's still a lot of ability there. There's some real Julio Jones vibes when it comes to a guy who's had some injuries here lately and getting older in his career. But if you're the Titans, you don't really have a choice at this point. You've backed yourself into a corner to where you got to have him. I mean, you just do. It's to have him out there offensively is to give the defense somebody to worry about other than Treylon Burks, Derrick Henry, and I feel like that would be essential to this offense being more successful than it looks like they're going to be right now.
Gentry Estes from the Tennessean with us here on Robby and Rexrode. So, Gentry, on the other side of the ball for the Titans, we know what Jeffrey Simmons is. Roger McCreary, I thought, had a really good first year. There's a lot that we think we know about that side of the ball, but there are a lot of question marks. I mean, Harold Landry's coming off the ACL. You lost David Long Jr. Can Christian Fulton stay healthy? So there's a lot that has to go right for them on that side of the ball. But having said all that, as you look at them on paper with the guys they've got coming back and with some of the guys that they've added this offseason, how good do you think this Titans defense can be?
I think they could be pretty good. I think when you look at some of the projections right now for the Titans and where they're being ranked in power rankings across the league, I feel like the rest of the league is sleeping on the Titans a little bit, and mostly it's because of their defense. I think the defense, assuming you get everybody back and healthy. I think healthy is the thing we haven't brought up yet. It's probably the biggest topic for the year again. But if you're healthy and you're able to do what you're expecting to do on that side of the ball, it looks pretty good. I like the free agent pickups they've had. I like the fact you mentioned a guy like McCreary going into his second year. I think you'll see a big leap there. I think the D-line looks awfully good. You got Jeffrey Simmons and Nico Autry are going to be pretty good up front. And with Landry back, along with Arden Key, I think the pass rush could be very good. You don't really see much of a weakness this time. And, you haven't really looked at a Titans defense in a while and said, okay, they're pretty good across the board. Like, I'm not really seeing a problem there. So, defensively, they could be pretty good, and, by all accounts, they're probably going to have to be.
Well, Gentry, we're looking forward to it. Looking forward to the game today for Tennessee against Stanford. Enjoy yourself in Omaha, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, you bet. Take care, guys.
Absolutely. Gentry Estes from the Tennessean with us here on Robby and Rexrode. I forget which restaurant it is, Michelle, that's got like the Jello shot challenge out there in Omaha, but they put up the whiteboard of like how many they've sold. The LSU fan base is just absurd.
I think it's Rocco's.
That sounds
Brandon and I were talking about it. It's like a bar. I love when they do this and they have every team that's in Omaha and they just do the tallies. I mean, LSU, when I saw, this might have been 2 days ago, they were already at 1,300.
It's crazy.
And just surpassing, I think Wake Forest was the next one at 900.
I have here the updated.
Oh, boy.
It was from June 17th, so this is Saturday.
Okay.
So let's see here. LSU at that time, 3,395.
Good gracious.
The next closest was Wake Forest at 1,964.
Okay.
Tennessee was at 498. Oral Roberts, 1,185.
It's kind of a disappointing showing from the Vols.
Well, are you ready? Are you ready to hear the 10 hours ago?
Sure.
Okay.
Updated one? LSU, 11,948. The next closest is Wake Forest, 4,744. Tennessee is only at 1,429. Oral Roberts, 2,423. But listen, LSU almost hitting 12,000. I mean, that is.
Well, Vols fans pacing themselves, apparently. LSU, nobody should try to keep up with LSU fans in that competition.
I wonder where Caroline Fenton is. Caroline, you know,
doing okay? Just wellness check.
I mean, if I'm a University of Tennessee graduate, I'm a little embarrassed that Oral Roberts is
there's that
kicking my butt in the Oral Roberts kicking my butt in the Jello shot challenge. Even TCU. I mean, I guess TCU is probably. I mean, I don't know. Of the teams that are there, I would say Tennessee.
I expected better from the Vols.
Tennessee should have been ahead of Stanford. Should have been ahead of Oral Roberts. Probably should have been ahead of Virginia. Well, they are. I mean,
honestly, everybody but LSU. They should have been ahead of. Maybe Florida.
No, I think Florida. I think Florida would be ahead of Tennessee. I mean, it could be a toss-up, I guess.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. 615-737-1025. Coming up next, it's time for the Rob Rant. You can check it out every morning at 7:45 here on the program. We will do that next. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
This fall,
Andy, 24-21, your final.
The Game.
All by himself for a one-hand flash.
Gets bigger.
The doors on the board.
Your new home for Vanderbilt Athletics is 102.5 The Game and 94.9 The Fan. Football, men's basketball, baseball, and women's basketball all live here. Your home for Vanderbilt Athletics is 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and 94.9 The Fan.
The FedEx St. Jude Championship returns to TPC Southwind, August 9th through the 13th. Don't miss your chance to witness the top 70 players from the PGA Tour season battle it out in the first event of the FedEx Cup playoffs. Only 50 players will make it through Memphis. Don't miss your chance to watch the drama unfold. Daily grounds and upgraded ticket options are on sale now at FedExChampionship.com.
Do you take pride in your work? Do you want to help build Nashville? You need to join Ironworkers Local 492. They build Nashville, working on everything from steel erection on buildings and bridges, plant maintenance, concrete, reinforcing, conveyor work, sheeting, welding, rigging, fence erecting, curtain wall, window wall, and a variety of other specialty work. They provide the best skilled iron workers for contractors and projects in Nashville. If you want to build Nashville, you want to be proud of doing it, visit ironworkers492.org. Join Ironworkers Local 492.
Are you drowning in credit card debt? Want to get cash out of your home's equity? Loan Pronto can do it now in less than a week. Hey, Willie Donick here. That's right. Loan Pronto's Equity Express line of credit just got even faster. You can get $50,000, $100,000, even $200,000 in as little as 5 days. You don't even have to touch your primary mortgage. You can keep that 3% rate intact. Get just the money you need and pay off all those credit cards or get that home improvement project started. With this revolutionary program, you can access up to 90% of your home's value, and in most cases, there's no appraisal. Stop paying insane interest rates to the credit card companies and get tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash in as little as 5 days. Call Loan Pronto now for the even faster Equity Express line. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. 615-499-5780. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval.
You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, presented by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
The time is now for the Rex Rant.
Sounds like somebody's got a case of the Mondays.
On Robby and Rexrode, here on ESPN, 102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
It is that time of the day, time for the Rob Rant here on Robby and Rexrode. You can check it out every morning at 7:45 here on the program. Either the Rob Rant, the Rex Rant, or the Red Rant. We'll take your thoughts as well. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. So, as some of you may know, I am becoming a father very shortly. Our due date is August the 4th, so we're in the home stretch here of little Allison joining us here on the planet. And in preparation for this, there's many things going on in my house right now. We had a maternity shoot over the weekend where I had to go and hold my wife's stomach
Belly.
like I was accepting a handoff in football, like all those different poses that we did, which I'm happy to do.
Now, did you do a picture where it appeared that you were taking
We did
a
not
handoff?
do that, but it kind of felt like I was taking like a halfback draw sometimes.
Put some eye black on.
Here we go. Just make sure you put it in the pocket there. You got to hand me the ball right. And we were talking about Ryan Tannehill's handoff form is great with Derrick Henry. No question about it. Doesn't need to work on that. But we did that over the weekend with a maternity shoot. There's a whole lot of other stuff going on. We had the baby shower, and we got a lot of stuff, and it was great. And really appreciative for all these things. Now, as you know, Adam, like when you start to get some of these things and you get into the home stretch before your child is about to be born, there's a lot of assembly that is required on some of these things.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've been putting together some bassinets and some cribs and just your stuff that we need before she gets here and we have to be in charge of raising a human and keeping her alive and all those good things. So I have found during this that maybe the most unhelpful thing on the earth are instruction manuals.
Mm-hmm.
And it's unbelievable to me. I mean, you open these things. And, of course, some of these bassinets and cribs and all this other stuff, they come in about 50 pieces. So it's like, oh, good. This is going to take a nice 3 hours to put all this together. Nothing I'd rather do. And you open up the manual, and you're thinking, well, at least they've given me a manual. So I can step-by-step do these things. And on a couple of these, I've opened up the instruction manual. And they're really there's no words. It's just pictures with no explanation. It's just a picture. And I'm like, well, and not only is it's a picture, but it's a picture that really is drawn so poorly that it doesn't really help you do anything. So first off, thank God for YouTube, because I've looked up YouTube on how to just put some of these together, and people have taken time to okay, step-by-step process. Here's how you do this. Here's how you do this. I'm a graduate of YouTube University. When I can't fix something, that's usually what I do, is just look up something on YouTube. But I don't understand why we're making instruction manuals if they're 0% helpful. I mean, at least have some sort of verbiage on there that tells me what I'm supposed to do. This idea of, well, you'll just be able to look at this picture that looks like it was drawn in 1974, and you'll be able to just go from there and figure it out. It's been amazing to me how unhelpful the instruction manuals have been. And maybe this is operator error. I don't know. I mean, look, I've put these things together, and I've done it. So I know that I have the ability to put together the crib and to put together the bassinet and all these other things. But it's mind-blowing to me how unhelpful instruction manuals are with too many things in America. We got to fix this. This is a problem.
Well, first I have to admit, as a young father myself, look, this home stretch, I'm sure you're feeling this, combination of, excitement and anxiety, becoming a dad. I remember feeling that way before Arlo was born.
Threw a flathead screwdriver up against my wall the other day. It was fun.
I did not do that. But I will say this, and I'm not afraid to admit it. I am not the handy one in my household. My wife is so much better at putting things together than I am. She's the one that does a lot of the home improvement projects. I'm there for moral support. I leave a lot of that stuff to her. A lot of the stuff that's in our house, a lot of the stuff that's been put together, pretty much all of the way that the pictures are hung up and everything like that, that was all Bridget. I had pretty much nothing to do with it. And I think they're
really just selling yourself out right now.
I mean, I'm just being honest.
He's being real.
I'm just being honest. But with some of the stuff that you're talking about, I feel like I've always been this guy, and here I'm selling myself out a little bit more. Where if you're buying a piece of furniture like like a crib or a dresser or anything like that for the child's room, if there's an option to pay a little bit extra to have the person who delivers it put it together, I'm doing it. That's just how it is. Unless it's an exorbitant amount of money, then I meaning Bridget will figure it out. But the one thing I remember when we were doing this is how the one thing that was really odd to me was the rocking chair.
Yeah.
Because we found a rocking chair we liked, and it was back ordered for like 5 months. I was like, people are this excited about a rocking chair?
That's quite the wait.
That it's going to take
chair.
that long for it to come. And I think we ended up, there was one that we wanted, and it was back ordered so long. So like, okay, we'll pivot to another one. And it was only back ordered for 2 months. Yeah. And I was like, okay, well, that seems better than 5 months. But yeah, I mean, look, it's only going to get worse, especially as you start buying toys and you have to put the toys together. That'll become, even worse. But yeah, the build up, the lead up to just until your child is born, there's a lot of stuff you have to do. We didn't find out what we were having until he was born. So that was a challenge in terms of, we had to make a neutral nursery.
Right. Yeah.
So we had neutral colors and neutral furniture. So that was a little bit more of a challenge. But yeah, I mean, in terms of instruction manuals,
it makes me so mad.
They are very. I'm also the YouTube guy. Like a few months ago, I wanted to clean out one of Arlo's strollers.
Yeah.
So I was like, how do I take this apart? And even watching the YouTube video, it took me a minute. I'm one of those people that I can deconstruct something, but don't ask me to reconstruct it. If I need to take something apart.
You're good at breaking things, but you're not putting it back together.
Basically. I could deconstruct the stroller so that I could wash the fabric, but when it came to putting it back together, I was like, I need help with that.
Well, I legitimately, if something breaks with my lawnmower, it doesn't really matter what it is. I will go to YouTube. And, my father-in-law is he's one of those guys that can just look at something and he's like, yeah, I know what's wrong. I know how to fix it, and I'm just going to do it. And that's not me. I have to have, I legitimately don't know what I would do without, watching YouTube videos of how to do stuff. It's all I do now.
No, first off, YouTube is an amazing tool when you are building things. And I will say to the instruction manual thing, because I haven't put together cribs or anything, but a lot of furniture for a house, dressers, outdoor furniture, all that stuff. I feel like half the time the instructions aren't there, like you said. But then I have been around people and not to name names, trying to put things together and just throw the directions out the window. And they're like, I don't know how to put this together because our society is so impatient. Yeah. They're like, yeah, I'm not even going to look at this. I'm just going to try to shove this thing in there and twist this and all that stuff. So, I'm happy, Robby, though, that you have the patience.
Well,
or maybe not.
I'm not sure that I do.
Did you hear the part where he threw a screwdriver against the wall?
Then try to YouTube it, rather than just kind of throwing the pieces on the ground. But I would say I'm the builder in the household as well.
Ethan from Lawrenceburg says he's married to a female engineer, so she makes fun of him when he tries to put things together. Yeah. And look, that's like at least you have that excuse that your wife is an engineer. My wife is not an engineer, but she is. She recently put together a list of all the home improvement things that she wants to get done, and she was like, we had to replace or we had to fix. A fixture in one of the bathrooms, yep. Patch the wall and paint it over. She did that. She wanted the door hinge on Arlo's nursery door. She did that. I was like, oh, okay. I'm going to go spray the weeds because that's very easy for me to do. I'm going to, if it involves lifting, I'm okay at that. Yeah. But if it involves any sort of real manual labor, I'm out. I just never had to do it. That makes me sound incredibly spoiled. But do you know how to
that manual labor is overrated?
It is frustrating though when you can't figure it out.
Do either of you know how to change a tire?
Yes.
Michelle?
Come on. I got AAA for that.
I
paid for AAA for
I thought she was saying, come on, yeah.
I have no idea. I have zero idea how to change a tire.
That's all right. Porth didn't either. There'll be a lot of people in this program.
I don't know if I want to be compared to Porth in that regard.
I think Rexrode knows how to change a tire.
Really?
I think. Now I'm questioning it. But I think he does.
You can ask him tomorrow when he's still hungover.
You're giving him the benefit of the doubt.
I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. Joey from Bellevue says, Robbie, got to get you some power tools. Cuts the time in half. Helped when I put my son's stuff together. I've got power tools.
Yes.
It's just some of the things I feel like if I use power tools, I'm going to snap in half.
Yeah, or you need an L, you need an L wrench and all that stuff. You don't need the full power tool.
Although, any excuse I have to use a power tool.
Yeah, there you go.
I probably should.
Aaron from White House says he's easily the moral support to his wife making things. And I just want to say to all of you husbands out there, like me, who rely on your wife to do all of this stuff, more power to us. But don't ask us to do anything. I'm there for moral support. I'm there. Hey, I am right there when she completes the project and I can erase it off the whiteboard. I'm there.
Well, I'm
there for moral support.
We finally got to one, the last thing I was putting together. I just opened up the package. I took one look at the instruction manual. I threw it to the side and immediately went to YouTube. I'm I'm not even messing with this thing. I'm just going to go right to YouTube.
I feel like
and it worked.
IKEA. I feel like IKEA furniture doesn't have verbal instructions.
Yeah,
it just has
just a bunch of pictures.
Yeah.
It's what is this?
Right.
No one knows.
615-737-1025, our phone number. 615-737-1025. We'll take your thoughts on that, our lack of handyman skills on this program. 615-737-1025. We'll get back into the Titans and the NFL coming up next. The most intriguing teams in the AFC and the NFC. We'll take your thoughts on that on our phone and text lines as well. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5-106.3 The Game.
All the big plays.
And we are done. Vandy 24-21.
All the big stories.
I'm sure Vandy will be a much better team if Clark Lee is the coach.
All in one place. We are Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3.
What a stop by UC Sarah.
Then he wouldn't end up on my team.
Driving his way to victory lane.
I think that's the right strategy.
The Game and the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Hey, Ray Jeter here with Harness. Are you looking to take ownership in a position that will support your growth and development? We are an excavation and site utilities contractor. Several things set us apart from our competition, but we take the most pride in the professional development of our people. We have multiple openings for operators, pipe layers, and laborers. Our pay and benefits are second to none, including our 401k program. Apply today at selectharness.com. Harness LLC. Build people, move dirt.
Buffalo Bills Center of the West in Cody, Wyoming welcomes you as you enter Yellowstone Park's east entrance. 5 museums in one and the greatest firearms museum anywhere. Welcome to the West. Buffalo Bills Center of the West, Cody, Wyoming.
Blue 22.
Those are sports sounds. And people love sports so much, it makes them pay attention when I say, drivers who switch and save with Progressive could save hundreds.
And it's way back. It's out of here.
And we all know how sports fans feel about big saves.
What a save!
See what I did there? Save is also a sports word. So save big when you switch to Progressive. Ooh, that's a golf clap.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary.
Are you working way too hard for way too little? There's never been a better time to consider a career in IT. You could enjoy a recession-resistant career in a rewarding field with plenty of growth opportunities and often flexible work environments. Go to mycomputercareer.edu and take the free career evaluation. You could start your new career in months, not years. Take classes online or on campus, and financial aid is available to qualified students, including the GI Bill. Now is the time. mycomputercareer.edu.
Your Game Center update.
I'm Michelle Knezovic. The Tennessee Volunteers win or go home today in Omaha after a 6-3 loss to LSU on Friday. They'll play Stanford today. First pitch at 1 p.m. The winner of this game will advance and play the loser of Wake Forest and LSU. That game will begin at 7 p.m. The NBA announced a 25-game suspension for Ja Morant. Here was ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski on the suspension.
Well, he's out of consideration now, Ja Morant is, for any of those postseason awards. That will kick in with this new collective bargaining agreement. You know, you looked at the Miles Bridges suspension in Charlotte, 30 games. You know, you've got to find some precedent here. And for the league, I think the Players Association, if this was half the season, if this was the entire season, different scenarios people threw out, there wouldn't have been precedent for that. But your history does matter. Ja Morant has been under investigation by the NBA for well over a year on a number of different incidences.
This report is brought to you by the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. I'm Michelle Knezovic for 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
For more, follow us on Twitter at 1025 The Game or visit thegamenashville.com. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne. Broadcasting on Alexa.
I appreciate that.
And other smart speakers. 1025 and 1063.
And the score!
You can run different offenses.
The doors on the board.
Off the field, on the field.
The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Mixing sports and a little bit of fun.
This is fun!
On your morning drive. This is Robby and Rexrode. With Robbie Stanley and Joe Rexrode. Presented by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty. On Nashville's best sports talk. 1025 and 1063 The Game. And on the Game Nashville app.
Ladies and gentlemen,
it's showtime.
Final hour, Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063 The Game, presented by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty, helping home buyers and sellers in Middle Tennessee for 20 years. We are taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Robbie Stanley, Adam Vingan, Michelle Knezovic here with you on this Monday morning. Corey Curtis normally joins us every Monday at 8 o'clock. He is on vacation, so we hope Corey has a wonderful vacation. We'll be back with him, and he'll join us next week on Monday at 8 o'clock, so looking forward to that. So, Adam, I was thinking about this last night. We're right around the corner from NFL training camps opening up. We're just over a month away from football season returning and training camps going on, and before we know it, we'll have preseason games, and we'll be talking about Malik Willis and Will Levis slinging the football around out there in the preseason games, and as you said, 83 days away from the Titans and the Saints down there in New Orleans. So we're getting close to football season being here and being ready to go. And I was thinking around last night, just the differences in some of these teams in the AFC to the NFC this offseason and the interest level heading into this season. So as you look at it, and let's start with the AFC here. Who is the most intriguing team in the AFC to you, Adam Vingan, as we sit here 83 days away from week one in the NFL between the Titans and the New Orleans Saints?
There are two
that
immediately jump to mind. I know you asked me one, but there are two.
You can do two.
One is the New York Jets, for obvious reasons.
Yep.
With Aaron Rodgers now there, your boy. It'll be interesting to see where the Jets fall in the AFC pecking order. I still expect the Bills to win the AFC East, and I think the Dolphins should be behind them, but I wonder how much of a boost Aaron Rodgers brings to the Jets. He is still a good to great player in the NFL, obviously. I know you have mixed feelings about Aaron Rodgers.
I do.
But I'm wondering about that. The other one, which is maybe, I don't know how much of a out of left field this is, it's the Denver Broncos.
It's a good one.
You know, Sean Payton coming in. You know, he worked wonders in New Orleans with Drew Brees. Russell Wilson was bad last season. Nathaniel Hackett gone after one season as coach. Is Russell Wilson that bad? Have his skills deteriorated that much? Or will having a competent, proven coach, albeit one who's been out of the league for a couple of years, will that help Denver? Now, I still think they're the third best team at best in that division behind Kansas City and Los Angeles. The Raiders will be interesting this year too, but I really wonder about the Broncos because they have players who you think should be good on that team, starting with Russell Wilson. And I'm really curious to see how much the Sean Payton factor plays into whether that team can improve enough to even, challenge for a playoff spot in the AFC.
Denver's a really good one. I mean, the Sean Payton coming in there, I think, is really interesting. And I think you nailed it with the question. Was last year a blip on the radar for Russell Wilson, or is it a sign of things to come? And I don't know the answer to that. I mean, I look at his career, and he's been a really good player for a long time. And we know, he's a 9-time Pro Bowler. He's won a Super Bowl. We know what Russell Wilson has been. It was kind of jarring to watch him play last year. I mean, it was beyond. I mean, you look at the numbers, and the numbers aren't good. I mean, the numbers are as bad as he's been in a while. He only completed 60% of his passes, 3,500 yards. He had 16 touchdown passes, 11 interceptions. So he turned the ball over a lot, and the numbers aren't good. I mean, the year before that in Seattle, he had 65% of his passes completed through 25 touchdowns, 6 interceptions before he got hurt. So that's a pretty drastic drop-off from what we've seen from Russell Wilson. So how much of that is him, and how much of that is it's with a new team? Nathaniel Hackett maybe wasn't ready to be a head coach. The offense just didn't work for whatever reason. Is Sean Payton coming in, and does deep down Sean Payton believe that Russell Wilson at his age of 34 can be fixed and that he's going to be fine moving forward? I have to imagine, to some degree, Sean Payton has to believe that, because otherwise why would you take the job? His contract, you're not getting out of that Russell Wilson contract anytime soon. So that makes me believe that Sean Payton thinks, he looks at Russell Wilson and says, yeah, I can still work with that guy, and we'll get things figured out, and they'll be good. If they do, I am really interested to see where they end up in that division. They're not better than Kansas City, and I agree with you. I don't think they're better than the Chargers either. But with all the hype they got last year, they were so disappointing. Could this be the year where things maybe start to turn around in Denver? It's very interesting.
I mean, those are the two teams, the Jets and the Broncos, that immediately came to mind in the AFC. I really liked what the Dolphins did last season.
Yep.
It also helped that Tyreek Hill was on my fantasy team.
I bet.
But with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and we'll see what happens with Tua. Of course, multiple serious injuries for Tua. I was going to say, I can't say his last name.
Tagovailoa.
I'm not going to even try. I tried, but then I messed up. So we're going to stick with Tua T here. With Tua suffered, multiple serious head injuries. We'll see if they can challenge the Bills in the AFC East. I mean, I think the Jaguars are an obvious one for people, just for all the reasons we've talked about.
I'll throw another one at you,
all right,
because there were two that came to mind for me as well when I was thinking about this question. One is the Jets, obviously, with Rodgers going. The second one is the Baltimore Ravens.
Yes, that was mine too, Rob.
And you had the whole Lamar situation this offseason with his contract, and you eventually got that figured out on draft day. You signed Odell Beckham to that huge deal, and I think paid him way more than anybody else was willing to pay him. I think you're seeing some teams maybe a little bit frustrated by that with the pursuit of DeAndre Hopkins going on right now. But if Lamar can stay healthy, which the last couple of years has been a big if, he's had something nagging each of the past 2 years. He played in 12 games in 2021, played in 12 games last year too. But if he can stay healthy, how good can that offense be? With him, you've got Greg Roman out as offensive coordinator now. Todd Monken coming in from Georgia to run that offense in Baltimore. How good can that offense be with Lamar Jackson, with Odell Beckham Jr. coming off his second torn ACL? They drafted Rashad Bateman a couple of years ago, and they just drafted Zay Flowers too. So you spent a first-round pick on Rashad Bateman a couple of years ago. Now you got Zay Flowers in there out of Boston College at wide receiver, and you brought in Odell Beckham. how good can that offense be? Because I think if they can stay healthy, and if Beckham comes back and looks like anything close to what he looked like at the end of his time with the Rams when they won the Super Bowl, like I think they can be pretty good. And they're not it's not the Ravens defense of Ray Lewis and Ed Reed running around back there by any stretch of the imagination. But we know what their head coach is. John Harbaugh's a really good head coach. We know just kind of the winning vibe of that organization, as much as it hurts Titans fans. They're really intriguing to me because I feel like if the moves that they've made offensively work out, they're going to be a factor in the AFC. So those are the two teams that came to mind for me in the AFC. The Jets at number 1 for all the reasons you listed, and I think Baltimore is really interesting as well.
Yeah, I think Baltimore is a good choice. I hadn't really thought of them just because they've kind of been around for a while. But the Lamar Jackson situation, bears monitoring. I mean, in terms of how he responds this season, and the addition of Odell Beckham is intriguing as well. So, no, I think the Ravens are, an interesting team there too. I mean, I guess you could throw the Browns in there as well, see if Deshaun Watson.
That's I have no idea what he is anymore.
Yeah,
I've seen Deshaun Watson play some really good football in the league, and he came back last year, and I get it. I mean, he had all this off-the-field stuff going on with his gross behavior, and then he hadn't played football in a long time, so he looked rusty last year. Like, is he, now that he's been there and he's gone through the offseason program and all that stuff, is he going to be the Deshaun Watson that we saw at the end of his time in Houston? Because if he is, I mean, they could be pretty good with the roster they have in Cleveland. So that's another way you could go. Jonathan on the text line talking about the Broncos situation, says it'll be like the Jags situation last year. So you had the Urban Meyer stuff going on with Jacksonville. Not that Nathaniel Hackett was anything like that with Urban Meyer in terms of the behavior part of it, but it is a coach that was there for less than a year, and it didn't work out, and now you're talking about an established head coach coming in, so hoping for similar success, I guess.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point about the Jaguars situation, because Nathaniel Hackett couldn't hack it. There's your dad joke.
Good gracious.
As a head coach, and now he's in New York, right?
That was Rexrode-esque.
Right. So
yeah, he's in New York with Todd Downing.
Yeah, he is.
And Rodgers.
What a combo.
I forgot that Todd Downing ended up in New York. Oh man. Yeah, I mean, to me, I feel like, and we'll get to this, I feel like there are maybe a few more intriguing teams in the NFC than the AFC.
Well, we'll get to that coming up next. We'll take your thoughts. 615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. We'll take your most intriguing teams in the AFC, and we'll get to the NFC coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5-106.3 The Game.
You enjoy the thrill of gambling, but what happens when it becomes a problem? Whether you want to cut back or quit gambling altogether, the Gambling Clinic has been helping people change their gambling for over 2 decades. We're here to help, not to judge. The Gambling Clinic is a Tennessee-based clinic offering in-person and telehealth support to help people win back their life. Visit us at thegamblingclinic.com. This project is funded by the Tennessee Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services.
What's up, everybody? It's Michelle Knezovic here for Superbook Sports. Bring that big bet energy this summer with Superbook Sports. Superbook Sports is the most trusted name in the sports betting world, and right now, if you use the promo code KNEZ, K-N-E-Z, you can score up to $250 with their first bet bonus. Win or lose, they'll match your first bet up to $250 with the promo code KNEZ, K-N-E-Z. I got to check out the Superbook Sportsbook in Las Vegas this weekend. I highly recommend it to anybody going down there. So many TVs, so many things to place some bets on. If you're taking a look at some of the wagers today, we got a little MLB action. Kansas City Royals and the Detroit Tigers. If Joe Rexrode has taught me anything, it is to bet against the Detroit Tigers. So, Kansas City Royals, nice odds on the money line, plus 130. Also going to take them plus the 1.5. Over under, you're looking at 9 even. I'm going to take the under on that one. So you can simply visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Download the Superbook Tennessee app in app stores, and don't forget, enter the promo code KNEZ, K-N-E-Z, and you'll get $250 courtesy of Superbook Sports. Got a gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789.
Honey, what's an 8-letter word for difficult to explain?
When we planned on retiring, we never planned on Medicare being so confusing.
What's a 6-letter word for special skills or knowledge?
Fortunately, Farm Bureau Health Plans is an expert on all things Medicare. With 75 years of helping Tennesseans, they helped us understand our Medicare options.
Why are these things so complicated?
Talk to your local representative or visit fbhp.com. Farm Bureau Health Plans. Plan on us.
Broken bricks, falling fences, damaged doors, Gorilla Glue. Of course. It's incredibly strong and 100% waterproof and bonds, well, virtually everything. While you're at it, look for Gorilla Tape, a heavy-duty double-thick duct tape, and Gorilla Super Glue, great for all your quick fixes and repairs. There's also Gorilla Epoxy, Gorilla Wood Glue, Gorilla Construction Adhesive, of course. You get it. If you can break it, Gorilla can fix it. For the toughest jobs on planet Earth.
Hey y'all, my name is Tiara, and a little thing that I love about the Chick-fil-A Spicy Chicken Biscuit is that it has the perfect amount of spice to jumpstart my day. Whoever thought of it, thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Robert, and a little thing I love about Chick-fil-A Spicy Chicken Biscuit is the biscuit. It reminds me of my grandma's homemade biscuit. It's always buttery and savory. Then you add the spices, instant classic.
Order the Spicy Chicken Biscuit on the Chick-fil-A app today. Real Chick-fil-A guests paid for their testimonials.
Discover credit cards automatically double all the cash back you earn at the end of your first year, which means... Wait, hold up. Question for the audio engineer.
Go ahead.
Did I read that right? Discover automatically doubles all your cash back?
Yeah, that's what the script says.
So if I get a Discover card right now, I can earn twice the cash back.
Apparently. Wait! Unlimited first-year cash back match, only from Discover. See terms and learn more at discover.com/match.
Meet Joe A, Joe B, and Joe C.
What's up?
3 everyday Joes perfecting their banking with Chase. Joe A is locking his lost debit card with the Chase mobile app. Joe B is cruising toward his new ride with AutoSave. And Joe C's Chase banker is helping him budget to go back to school. Tools that help protect. Support for what's next. One bank that puts you in control. Visit chase.com/checking. Chase. Make more of what's yours.
Chase mobile app is available for select mobile devices. Messaging and data rates may apply. J.P. Morgan Chase Bank, N.A. member FDIC.
Anyone want to tell me what happened?
Did you miss any of today's show?
It's okay. It's fine. Don't worry.
Subscribe to the Robby and Rexrode podcast on Apple, Spotify, and other podcast platforms, or by going to thegamenashville.com.
All right, I'll give it a shot.
Good morning. You're locked into Robby and Rexrode, presented by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty.
I had the radio on. I'm listening to
102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. We are streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. Our video streaming brought to you by Superbook. We are live from our 102.5 The Game studio, brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. I got some tickets to give away, a pair of tickets to see the Nashville Symphony perform the music of Led Zeppelin at Ascend Amphitheater coming up on June 25th. Be caller number 5, 615-737-1025. Our phone number, 615-737-1025. Caller number 5 will win a pair of tickets to see the Nashville Symphony perform the music of Led Zeppelin at Ascend Amphitheater coming up on June 25th. 615-737-1025. So, Adam, we have gone through your list of most intriguing teams in the AFC. What about on the other side with the NFC? As you mentioned, I think a lot of very interesting candidates in a conference that I would probably describe as a little bit more wide open, at least for the playoff field than the AFC is, based on the quarterbacks in each conference. But who are the most intriguing teams in the NFC to you?
The one that's most intriguing to me, I just pulled up the NFC roster of teams and was like, okay, which is the first team that pops up to me? And maybe this will come as a surprise, maybe not. But the first team that grabbed my attention was the Carolina Panthers.
Okay.
And obviously, part of it is because they drafted Bryce Young. But they made some interesting moves this offseason. They brought in Miles Sanders from Philadelphia. They brought in Adam Thielen, DJ Chark, Shy Title on the other side of the ball.
Traded away DJ Moore to the Bears for the first pick. Yep.
Right. So there were a lot of interesting moves they made. And look, I don't expect them to be that good. I mean, we talk about the AFC South being weak. The NFC South is right up there. I mean, I don't expect the Buccaneers to be good, the Falcons to be good. The Saints, the Saints are probably the favorite, and they may be a 500 team, or as close to what 500 is in a 17-game schedule. So
the 8-9 or 9-8.
Yeah, but the Carolina Panthers are interesting to me. Just, obviously the Bryce Young factor plays into it, but they gave him some weapons. Now, I had honestly, I had neglected to mention the DJ Moore move, which was part of the package to get the number 1 pick. But Adam Thielen is not the receiver he once was, but is still good. Still good. I mean, he was playing behind Justin Jefferson in Minnesota, and you're not going to get a lot of action when you're playing with Justin Jefferson. But Miles Sanders had a great year last year for the Philadelphia Eagles, who now have DeAndre Swift, at running back. So I like the, I like the Panthers. Obviously as a fan of an NFC South team, I'll be watching the Panthers quite a bit, but I'm interested to see, what kind of strides, Bryce Young makes this season and what these new players can add to that team.
The interesting part about this is I'm with you. I was going through the NFC, and there are a ton of teams that are really intriguing to me.
Like the Packers?
The Packers, the Packers, in all seriousness, I have no idea what Jordan Love is. I have no clue. I mean, I've seen him make some throws where you're like, okay. And I've also seen some plays where it's like, oh, boy. And I think you're probably going to see a mixture of that this year where he looks great on occasion, and then there will probably be some games where he looks really bad. I don't know what that's going to end up being for the Packers. I think the Packers around him still have a pretty good roster, especially on the defensive side of the ball. So we'll see what happens there. But I'm looking up and down here. I mean, you could go with Dallas, and Dallas is always intriguing because of the circus that's around them. But Dak didn't have a great year last year.
Ezekiel
How
Elliott
good are they
gone.
going to be? Zeke's gone. I mean, Tony Pollard stepping into kind of the full-time role that he stepped into last year. You mentioned some other teams in the NFC. I mean, Detroit is really interesting to me.
Detroit was the other one that popped to me as well, just because of what they did last season and the steps. Can they take another step forward?
Well, we joke about the Lions a lot here on the show just because of Joe's now hatred of them. But I can see a path where they can be pretty good this year. I think both lines of scrimmage they're really good at. That's where it starts in the NFL. And how good of a year is Jared Goff going to have? We'll wait and see on that front. But they're really interesting to me. I mean, obviously, Philadelphia, who was 14-3 last year, made it to the Super Bowl, and they drafted feels like 8 players off the Georgia defense the last 2 years. They could be pretty good again. My number 1 team that really intrigues me is San Francisco, just from the standpoint of, at quarterback, what are they going to do? What are they going to be? Is Brock Purdy, whenever he's healthy, is he Brock Purdy that we saw last year before the injury? Or do we get through all this and he looks more like the Brock Purdy that's like, oh, he's the last pick in the draft? Because how often do we see this? Like a quarterback comes in and they have a good stretch, whether it's 5 games, 6 games, 7 games, and then all of a sudden over the total period of their career, they kind of regress back to what we thought they were. I'm not saying that that's going to happen with Brock Purdy, but that part of it makes it really interesting just because I still love San Francisco's defense. I still think they've got a really good offensive line. They've got Deebo Samuel. They've got Ayuk. They've got Christian McCaffrey. They've got all these great players. George Kittle. All these great players around him. And it just kind of always feels like they're searching for it at quarterback. So San Francisco would be at number 1 because if they do get good quarterback play, I think you could make an argument that they're the favorite in the NFC. Right now, I think it's Philadelphia. I think Philadelphia is the best team in the NFC. But if they get good quarterback play in San Francisco, I think they're right there with the Eagles. And the other team to me is Minnesota because they won the division last year in the NFC North. They went 13-4, and it was maybe the most quiet 13-4 I can ever remember a team going. And obviously they got bounced in the playoffs. You got the Kirk Cousins contract situation. He's got 1 year left on his deal, and he's an unrestricted free agent. You have what I think is clearly now the best wide receiver in football, and that's Justin Jefferson. I think he surpassed Devontae Adams and is the best wide receiver in football. And yet, you don't hear a whole lot about him heading into this year. Everybody's talking about Detroit and the year that they're going to have, and Minnesota just kind of feels like an afterthought. And I realize that they've been in this position a lot where, Kirk Cousins is your quarterback. It's kind of, in a way, kind of similar to Tannehill in terms of the discussion around him, just because I think everybody agrees that Kirk Cousins is good, but he's probably not good enough to win a Super Bowl. But I do look at some of the pieces that they have. They just released Dalvin Cook, and when you've got Justin Jefferson out there, they can be pretty good. And I think they've made some improvements on the defensive side of the ball too over the last year. So I'm really interested to see what they are this year. I mean, you could throw the Giants in. There's a lot of ways you could go in the NFC.
If I remember correctly, there were a lot of people who expected the Vikings to lose in the playoffs as they did.
That is correct.
Because I feel like they won a lot of one-score games.
They did.
That was the issue, right?
They
Like
did.
There was a lot of luck that was probably involved in their 13-4.
Yeah.
So when they lost to the Giants in the playoffs, right?
That is correct.
When they lost to the Giants, I don't think anyone was shocked. I feel like a lot of people picked against the Vikings in the playoffs because of how they got to 13-4. I felt like they escaped with a lot of wins last season. But you're right about Jefferson. You're right about Cousins. The other team that comes to mind, to me, is Seattle.
Yep. Just
because Geno Smith had a renaissance last season. How repeatable is that for him? And I look at their top weapons on offense. They've got Kenneth Walker at running back. They've got Tyler Lockett. They've got DK Metcalf. Now they have Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Yeah.
Like, that could be a really fun offense.
It could.
And I just wonder about Geno Smith. Was it just a one-year blip? Or it's sort of like we were talking about with Russell Wilson the other way. Like, is Geno Smith this good all of a sudden? Or was it just things worked out really well for him last year and he's going to go back to being, a backup in a starter's role?
Well, and that's a division, too, that I don't know that I think it's necessarily winnable, because I think San Francisco is clearly the best team in that division. But I think Arizona is going to be absolutely terrible this year.
Yes.
And I don't know what's going on with Matt Stafford and the Rams, but if Stafford's not 100% and he can't play, or if he's injured at any point, like, they're not going to be very good. So I think Seattle at the moment is clearly the second best team in that division. And you mentioned it. I mean, the offense with Lockett, Smith, and Jigba, DK Metcalf, that could be really fun. And like you said, Kenneth Walker, the rookie stud from last year in year 2 coming up with Seattle, that could be really interesting. So, like, everybody's going to focus on the AFC heading into this year, which I understand. I mean, there's Buffalo and Kansas City and Cincinnati and the Jets with Rodgers. I mean, you can go up and down the list of quarterbacks specifically in the AFC that are going to capture people's attention. The list isn't that long. In the NFC, you got Jalen Hurts in Philadelphia. We'll see what happens with the San Francisco quarterback situation. But, there's not a lot of great quarterbacks in the NFC. So, in a way, I think that makes it fun because it's pretty wide open in the NFC, and I'm really interested to see, like, who are the teams that can come up and take charge of that and make a push for the playoffs. Is it the Packers? Is this the year the Lions break through and they push up and go to the playoffs? Are the Bears ready to make a move in the NFC North? Like, there's a lot of really intriguing teams to me in the NFC that don't have the quarterback, I guess, cachet that the AFC teams have. But I think it's going to be a really interesting year in the NFC. 615-737-1025, our phone number, 615-737-1025. We'll take your thoughts on that. We'll also get back into the Predators and their plan for this offseason coming up next with Adam Bingen, so make sure you're tuned in for that. Also, make sure you tune in for Nashville Sounds Baseball tomorrow at 6:35 on 94.9 The Fans. Sounds taking on the Norfolk Tides, the AAA affiliate of the Baltimore Orioles. Sounds Baseball on 94.9 The Fan, presented by 312 Pizza Company, Farm Bureau Health Plans, and Family Leisure. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
The NFL offseason is in full swing, but you'll never miss any of the big news. Thanks to Yahoo's Charles Robinson.
They know that there's a chance that they're going to have to deal this guy.
He's one of the best insiders there is.
All of a sudden, he becomes a functional player who we thought was just trash.
Join Charles Robinson every Thursday morning at 8 on Robby and Rexrode, presented by the NFL Alumni Association on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Last year, Karen bragged to her book club, "Hey ladies, I'm going to the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix." And the ladies were impressed. I mean, Karen was going to the only IndyCar race roaring through downtown Nashville, featuring 6 different types of racing, tons of concerts, and family fun. But then, Karen totally bailed and stayed home to read. Karen is such a Karen. Come on, don't be a Karen. Snag your tickets at MusicCityGP.com. The Big Machine Music City Grand Prix, August 4th through 6th. Get amped! If you're a Karen, please send all complaints to Karen at MusicCityGP.com.
Upgrade our diamond ring this summer with no money down and 0 interest for 5 years. Don't miss this killer offer from Genesis Diamonds. 5 years, 0 interest financing. Not just on engagement rings, earrings, bracelets, bands, colored gemstone jewelry, pre-owned Rolex watches. Buy now, pay nothing down, and spread your payments over 5 years with 0 interest. So that $5,000 gift comes out to just $85 a month. And that luxury pre-owned Rolex Submariner, Datejust, or Explorer starts at only $150 a month. Now through July 1st at Genesis Diamonds. Green Hills and Cool Springs. On approved credit, see store for details.
What's up? It's a Target trend alert. New swim has just arrived and it's sunny weather approved.
If you're into bikinis or one pieces, high waists or cutouts, they're the perfect combo of trendy, flattering, and affordable.
That's right. And there are so many cool styles with gorgeous details. These suits have macrame, crochet, wood beads, pretty shells, and more. Totally a luxe for less vibe.
Yes, so dive in and shop this Target trend without the spend.
Hey y'all, my name is Tiara, and a little thing that I love about the Chick-fil-A Spicy Chicken Biscuit is that it has the perfect amount of spice to jumpstart my day. Whoever thought of it, thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Robert, and a little thing I love about Chick-fil-A Spicy Chicken Biscuit is the biscuit. It reminds me of my grandma's homemade biscuit. It's always buttery and savory. Then you add the spices, instant classic.
Order the Spicy Chicken Biscuit on the Chick-fil-A app today. Real Chick-fil-A guests paid for their testimonials.
Attorney Joe Cordell.
Business owners and professionals face special challenges in divorce court. In addition to everything else going on, they have to contend with allegations that they are earning more than they are, coupled with claims on their business or practice itself. Clients with assets depend on their divorce lawyer skills in these matters, and that's why it's so important to hire someone that has those skills.
Schedule an appointment with one of Cordell & Cordell's Nashville area attorneys. 810 Crescent Center Drive, Suite 160, Franklin, Tennessee, 37067.
Jessica, this is the happiest day of my life. Right up there with the day I bought my RV and insured it with Progressive. Man, I love that thing. There are a million fish in the sea, which I'm reminded of every time I bring my RV to the lake, but I vow to love and cherish you just as much as I cherish campsites with full electric and water hookups. I'm so sorry.
Protect your beloved with an RV policy from Progressive. Take as little as 4 minutes to see what you could save at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
One is a legendary NFL wide receiver.
I gotta be prepared. I have to be ready.
One is a legendary Nashville voice.
You don't have to rely on carrying the ball 250 to 300 times.
And the other has been a legendary trash talker on the playground since the 4th grade.
Nobody is a Pro Bowler on day one of rookie minicamp.
They are Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace. Weekdays at 11 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey, this is Philip Forsberg. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Adam Vingan, Michelle Knezvik here with you on this Monday morning. Still no word from Joe Rexrode. We hope he had a great time last night in the final night of Bonnaroo.
Should we send the cops to his house just to check?
I don't know. I think it'll be okay.
I hope so.
Guys, Rexrode can hang. I have faith in him. He's fine. He was probably thriving.
He probably was. I can just see him right now in the fields of Manchester swaying along to Foo Fighters.
Yes.
Good stuff.
And his daughter, Caroline, just kind of, watching
being
him.
Being mortified.
What a Father's Day. Love it.
Yes.
Love it.
See how
Rexrode feels like, I was going to say he seems like the air guitar type. I think
he kind of does.
I think Rexrode's more of an air drummer. If I had to make a guess between the two, I think he's more of an air drummer than an air guitar player.
Looking forward to a full report coming up tomorrow on the program.
Hopefully videos. Hopefully videos as well.
In Bonnaroo. Look forward to that. We'll have to share some videos if we get them. 615-737-1025. So we had this discussion earlier, Adam, and I think it's a really interesting one as we sit here just over a week away from the NHL draft. That will be next week here in Nashville. And the Predators have 13 picks heading into this draft. They get 7 picks in the top 83. So there's a lot of draft capital that they've got at their disposal. And it's interesting to have this discussion, I think, both on the short-term part of things, on what they could do this offseason, but also with the long view in mind of what is it ultimately going to take for the Predators to get back to being a Stanley Cup contender. I mean, that's the question at the end of the day that Andrew Brunette, coming into this job, has to try to answer. but more specifically, Barry Trotz as general manager has to try to answer. How are you going to formulate your team to get things back to being a Stanley Cup contender with a shot to win a championship? That's what it's all about. And I think pretty much everybody would agree, at least I hope so, that next year there's really, to me, not much that they can realistically do this offseason to be in that conversation next year. I understand that they've got UC Saros, but they're a ways away, in my opinion, from being a Stanley Cup contender. So next year, to me, is not really what this is about. But having said that, you do have an opportunity this offseason to make some moves starting next week at the draft if that's what you want to do. So, Adam, how do you evaluate where the Predators are right now, kind of on the scale of trying to get back to being a championship contender? And if you're Barry Trotz stepping into this job, how do you get there? What's the path to getting the Predators back to a place where they're competing for a title?
Yeah, I think they're in the early stages of that build, and it might be a couple of years before this team reemerges as a contender. For me, we talked about this a lot last week. If I'm Barry Trotz, I am seriously considering, if he hasn't already, making an offer for Alex DeBrincat. Now, I am not trading. I don't know if I'm going to trade UC Saros straight up for Alex DeBrincat. Because remember, last summer, the Chicago Blackhawks, traded DeBrincat to the Senators, and they received 3 draft picks in return. The number 7 overall pick, I believe is the number 39 pick, which was the second round, and I think they got a third rounder next summer. So, 2 premium draft picks and an extra draft pick for DeBrincat. The expectation is that the Senators are not going to get back what they gave up to get DeBrincat. And DeBrincat had a down year by his standards last season. I think he scored 27 goals, which a lot of players will take. We're talking about a player who has scored 40 goals twice. Now, I did some research on this yesterday for a story for Sportsnet. I mean, really, last season it was bad luck for DeBrincat, bad shooting luck. He had his true shooting percentage, which is not just goals over shots; it's goals over shot attempts. So even including shots that don't hit the net. I think it was under 6% last season. His career average is around 8%.
Yep.
So there was some of that just, he was creating scoring chances at basically the same rate he was 2 seasons ago when he scored 40 goals for the Blackhawks. So you're just hoping that it's a down season and that if that shooting luck bounces back up, he'll be back to where he was. Yeah, I mean, I would consider trading some of those draft picks that the Predators have to get DeBrincat. Now, the contract's would be interesting. He's due a $9 million qualifying offer. He's not a $9 million player for me. He's probably more in the 8 to 8.5 range, like a Philip Forsberg type contract. But I think
he's a winger.
And he's a winger. And yeah, I mean, preferably you would get a center, but I don't know which centers are, available on the market, young centers.
Yeah.
So, it's not, I think it would be a good piece to have. I mean, DeBrincat is still young. He's 25. He's in his prime. He's a better scorer than anybody else you have on your team right now. And if you can eventually find a center to partner with him, then I think you have something going there. So I would not give up everything to go get DeBrincat. But if you can get him for a reasonable price, which I think you can, I would seriously consider it.
I think you should consider it for sure if you're the Predators. And look, there's a lot of things that are really interesting this offseason. I mean, we've talked about the salary cap. It's going up $1 million. There are going to be some teams that are cap strapped, and maybe you can find a deal that way. We've talked about, last year, that's how you got Ryan McDonough. Tampa Bay was cap strapped, and they needed to jettison his contract, and the Predators were able to step in. If you want to do something like that this year, you can. To me, though, like Adam, if you're doing that, you're probably doing it for a guy that is like an Alex DeBrincat, a younger guy that you could sign to long term if you want to, and it could be a part of not only next year's team, but really a part of that next wave, that next core that you're trying to build to get back to being a Stanley Cup contender. I mean, we've had some people ask us about free agency today on the text line, and we went through the list earlier. I don't expect the Predators to be, nor do I think they should be, very active by the time unrestricted free agency comes out. July 1st is the start of unrestricted free agency, and you look at the list of available free agents, it's not very good. I mean, you've got guys that at one time have been good. Patrick Kane is a free agent, and he's still a good player, but he's in hip surgery, and he's not going to be available for 4 to 6 months, and he's not coming to Nashville. The next contract that he signs is going to be a team that he thinks can win a Stanley Cup. You got Ryan O'Reilly out there. We've gone through some of the names earlier. A lot of guys that are on the other side of 30 that have been good players throughout their career. But when I look at the Predators roster right now, I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense to bring in some of these older guys just based on where the Predators are in their build. I mean, by the time, let's say you signed a Ryan O'Reilly to a 4-year deal. For 2 of it, like how good are they really going to be? And for the last 2 years of those deals, he'll be 35 and 36. Like, is that what you want to sign up for if you're a team out there? If you're the Predators, I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense for them to be active in free agency.
Yeah, I mean the number one player, trade on the Athletics offseason trade board is Pierre-Luc Dubois.
Yeah.
And it's amazing that he's only 24. He's about to turn 25. He'll be 25 this week. But so in the DeBrincat to bring DeBrincat back into the conversation, Dubois fits that age bracket that you're looking for.
Yeah.
But this will be the second. If he gets traded, it'll be the second time he's been traded already.
I don't have any interest in him. There's something with him that
he
just
wanted
rubs
out of
people the
he
wrong
wanted
way.
out of Columbus. Now he wants out of Winnipeg, and he's wanted out of Winnipeg. Like this is not a new thing.
He wants to play in Montreal.
That is the reporting is that he wants to play in Montreal. He's a Quebec native, but if Dubois did not carry so much baggage, I would consider that
For
as
sure.
someone who would as a potential number one center. But a guy who's about to be 25, already wanting out of his second, already wanting out of another team. It's not worth. He's not. I mean, he's good, but he's not that good where you would put up with that kind of stuff. If he was transcendent and he was like this, you could live with that, as most teams do. To me, Dubois is a very good player, but he's not good enough where I overlook the fact that he's now basically asking out of the second
if
team
you look
already.
at his numbers, I mean,
it doesn't pop off
he's
the
like
page.
Ryan Johansson,
right,
at the top of his powers, which is a good player.
Right. He had a career high this season, 63 points in 73 games. So
that's not what you're looking for.
No, it's not. But there aren't very many centers available. I'm looking at the centers that are on this trade board. Number 3, Mark Scheifele. He's 30 years old already. Jeez. Nick Schmaltz in Arizona, 27.
Yep.
Kevin Hayes in Philadelphia, 31. Mikhail Backlund in Calgary, 34. None of these guys are top number 1 centers. I mean, Dubois, in theory, is a number 1 center, but he's probably I think the comparison to Ryan Johansson is bang on. Obviously talented, picked near the top of his draft, just like Ryan Johansson. Good player, but probably not good enough to be a consistent number 1 center.
Yeah. Well, and that's ultimately, I mean, we talk about getting back into a championship window. I think in order to do that, at some point, the Predators and Barry Trotz specifically are going to have to find something they've never found before, and that is that top-line centerman. And the best question is, how do you go about doing that? Is that via the draft this year where maybe you move up? Is that eventually trading the goaltender? What all goes into that? We'll get to that coming up next. Take your thoughts on the Predators, how they get back to building a championship roster as Barry Trotz officially takes over as general manager. The NHL draft in Nashville coming up next week. So we'll take your thoughts on all of that as well. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. 615-737-1025. This is Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063 The Game.
1025 and 1063 The Game has an all-star lineup Monday through Friday. Batting first at 6 a.m., it's Robby and Rexrode.
Yeah, you take that. You take that. Take 80% of that.
Followed by Chase and Michelle at 9.
Couldn't hit the broadside of a barn.
I need my caffeine so much.
Then it's Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace at 11.
Yep, green light, let's go.
You've got a lot of options.
He say, she say.
And bringing it home at 2, Jared Stillman for Stillman and Company.
That guy will be a good coach.
We are Nashville's best sports talk, 1025 and 1063 The Game.
Attention all fire and safety line experts. Middle Tennessee's fastest growing fire protection company is looking for experienced service technicians, designers, and sprinkler system experts like you. Tired of working for a large corporate employer? Work for a company where you're more than just a number. Jarrett Fire Protection is owned and operated by Nashville natives and wants to invite you to grow with their amazing team.
Hi, I'm Jason Jarrett, owner of Jarrett Companies. I'm looking to hire experienced sprinkler experts and will offer a sign-on bonus of up to $5,000 for certified professionals. In addition to our great benefits that include a 401k match, PTO, and top pay with annual bonuses, we will also provide you with the top-of-the-line tools, trucks, and equipment that you need to grow your career. Our customer base is large and business is booming with many opportunities for advancement. Give us a call or go online to jarrettfire.com and apply today to become a member of our family and protect our community. That's JARRETT fire.com. Jarrett Companies, where we are above and beyond industry standards.
Hey y'all, it's Courtney with Parman Tractor and Equipment. Warmer months have you working overtime? Be sure to visit Parman Tractor and Equipment for all your New Holland tractor and bush hog needs. Swing by our store at 3570 Dickerson Pike in North Nashville or give our sales team a call. We're now offering 0% financing for 72 months on select New Holland tractors. Get the brands you trust from a local dealer like Parman, always ensuring totally outrageous customer service. Visit ParmanTractor.com for the best deals on equipment, New Holland tractor, bush hog, and more.
Men, at the Tennessee Men's Clinic, our urologists and providers have been helping guys with erectile dysfunction and other sexual health issues for years. And unlike some, at the Tennessee Men's Clinic, we take a comprehensive approach to your sexual health. Our sole focus is to treat ED and related conditions. ED can be affected by a bunch of things, from hormones, prostate issues, medical conditions, and even simply aging. The fact is, most guys experience it at some point in life. If you're suffering with ED, it's extremely important to see a provider that understands how your medical conditions, hormone levels, and other factors can impact your ability to have sex. That's why you should come to the Tennessee Men's Clinic, where we have treatments that are effective in nearly 90% of cases. I can't tell you how many guys we've seen that thought their situation was hopeless, only to be wildly surprised. So give us a call today. We'll do some blood work with a T-check and a medical consult to give you the best shot at success. Call 615-208-9090 or go to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. We have 2 offices, Midtown and Franklin.
Visit our website to learn more, including side effects. Treatments extra, results vary.
Buffalo Bill's Center of the West in Cody, Wyoming welcomes you as you enter Yellowstone Park's east entrance. 5 museums in one, including a wonderful Plains Indian Museum. Welcome to the West. Buffalo Bill's Center of the West, Cody, Wyoming.
You're locked into Robby and Rexrode.
Every morning, first thing.
Presented by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Welcome back in. Final segment of the day. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Adam Vingan, Michelle Knesvik here with you on this Monday morning. Taking your thoughts, 615-737-1025. We're looking at the offseason plan for the Predators and how the Predators get back to trying to build a Stanley Cup contender with Barry Trotz taking over as general manager. Now, it feels like, Adam, this offseason, when we have discussions like this or involving the Predators moving forward, it always kind of leads back to a discussion of, all right, well, what are they doing with the goalie? Are you signing UC Saros to a new deal when that time comes with his contract? Are you trading UC Saros and going with Yaroslav Askarov? Are you trading Askarov when the time comes and getting what you can for him with that asset and signing Saros to the next deal? And there are a lot of Predators fans that have, I think, a lot of different opinions on this. Some are Team Saros all the way, and they need to pay him and lock down what they have at their goaltender spot. Some are saying, you know what? You don't need to invest that much money in goaltender. Just go with Askarov and use that money to build a team around the goalie. And you and I have kind of leaned more in that direction in terms of the Saros conversation. Probably, if it was up to me, if it was up to you, and I don't want to speak for you, but using that money to build a team around your next goalie and not giving Saros $9.5 million would be the way I would go. And again, I feel like I need to clarify this every time I say it. It's not a commentary on Saros. Like, if the Predators ultimately decide to give him the money and he makes $9 million or $9.5 million a year, whatever it'll be, I mean, he's going to be a good player. I think we know that. He's one of the best goalies in the league. I just, in terms of building a championship winner, is that the best route to go? Or could you use that money elsewhere, maybe beef up the forwards, get some help on defense, and go win a championship that way with Askarov, who you drafted in the first round, who you think is going to be pretty good. Maybe he's as good as Saros. Maybe he's not. But we'll have to wait and see on that front. Would you go that route? And it kind of feels like we're at the point where whatever way you think the Predators are going, it kind of always leads back to the goalie position at this point.
No, for sure. And by the time UC Saros' contract is up, so will Askarov's. Askarov's entry-level contract expires after the 2024-25 season. I don't think it's a candidate for a slide year. So they'll both need new contracts in the summer of 2025. And at that point, we don't know how often Askarov will play, so one would assume that his first standard contract will be, team friendly. Let's see. UC Saros' first standard contract was a 3-year, $4.5 million contract, so a $1.5 million cap hit per season.
Yeah.
So let's just say Askarov gets that same deal, and let's assume as you have that Saros is going to make $9 million on his next contract. That's a $7.5 million savings by just putting in Askarov per year, putting Askarov over Saros, and 7.5 can get you a really good player or multiple solid players.
Right.
So to me, it's sort of an open and shut case. I think that the money that you could save by having Askarov in that position over Saros and using that money to build a better team in front of Askarov so he doesn't have to be as good as UC Saros all the time, I think is a better use of resources than paying a goalie, to be one of the top 3-5 goalies in the league.
So let me ask it to you this way, because I think we don't know what Barry Trotz is thinking on that front. He may think that the idea of trading UC Saros is preposterous, and he may not want to do it. So we'll see exactly what he thinks, because ultimately whatever he thinks is going to end up being what matters here with the Predators. But if you were the Predators, how much consideration would you have to trading UC Saros right now this offseason? Just based on, I don't think Askarov is ready yet. I think he'll probably spend next year in Milwaukee. They signed Kevin Lankinen this past season to be their backup goalie next year, so he's under contract next year. But I also said earlier in the show, and I believe this, I don't think the value for UC Saros will ever be higher than it is right now. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to trade him right now if your plan is to trade him, but I don't think the value will ever be higher than it is right now, just based on his contract. He's got 2 years left at $5 million. I mean, it's a heck of a deal that UC Saros is under right now. So if you're the Predators, given where they are, given the contract that's left with UC Saros, and given the fact that I don't think Askarov is quite ready yet, how much consideration would you give to making that move this offseason if you're the Predators?
I mean, I would seriously consider it. And if it helps you get that center, that elusive number one center that Barry Trotz is after, then I think you have to do it. Whether that's by moving up in the draft or, finding a team that is willing to give you a player of that caliber for a goalie of an excellent caliber. So, yeah, I mean, I think that if trading UC Saros helps you get that center, I don't think you think twice about it. I mean, and Kevin Lankinen has started in the NHL. He's a perfectly fine goalie. He's not, I thought he was good in the backup role last season. I think, if he had to be your starter for a year, or you could sign, or with the savings, you could go out and sign someone like Antti Ranta or Freddie Anderson or someone just to hold down the fort as a transitional starter. Like I think those those goalies are out there. So yeah, I mean I am of the mind that UC Saros I agree with you. He's a great player. He's been good for a while now. It's he is clearly one of the top goalies in the league. But I don't think the Predators need him. I think if you can parlay him into a better player up front, I don't think you should hesitate.
Well, and that's going to be the decision that Barry Trotz has in front of him. Another route that you've thrown out there that we're about a week away from finding out, with next week being the draft, is the picks that they have. They got 13 picks in this year's draft. That's more than any team in the league. They've got 7 picks in the top 83 next year. So, or this draft. So, as we sit here just over a week away, could there be a team that the Predators are targeting to move up in the draft? Could you package together some picks and move up maybe into the top 10, maybe into the top 5 in order to try and go get that centerman that you're talking about. I mean, right now the Predators are scheduled to pick at number 15 and number 24 overall in the first round, and they've got 13 picks in this year's draft. Could you package those picks together and move up? Barry Trotz has talked about, potentially going that route if a team will do it. I'm really interested to see how aggressive the Predators will be in their attempt to try to move up next week.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Athletics' most recent mock draft, and there are multiple centers going in the top 10 at number 1, at number 2, at number 3, at number 5, at number 8, and number 10. So there are centers to be available now. Will all of those centers pan out? We don't know, but if there are teams that that they could move up and give them plenty to think about with their second of their 2 first-round picks or one of their multiple second-round picks.
Yep.
This is that to me, if the best way the Predators can move up is by using that ammunition, and I think Barry Trotz will consider it.
Will from Nashville says, "What's your expectations for Askarov? I have no idea. I don't watch that close, and is not as knowledgeable as we are. What's Askarov's ceilings, the floor, in your opinion?"
You're giving me too much credit.
You are.
Look, he is one of the top 3 goalie prospects in the NHL.
I'd say that's fair.
And I think there is a lot to like about him. I agree. I haven't watched a ton of him, but I remember in his draft year, people were saying he's the next big thing in the goalie world.
Well, people were comparing him to Vasilevsky,
right? So, that's a lofty comparison, of course.
Is.
But I think Askarov should be a good starting goaltender in the NHL, and that's why when you have someone like that, that's why it's easy to talk about trading UC Saros, because you have someone already in the system who could be that next guy. And if there's one thing the Predators have been able to do in their history, it's develop goaltenders.
Yeah.
So I trust the Predators to get him ready to play. I mean, it happened with Rene, it happened with Saros. Who else? Tomas Vokoun.
Yeah.
There are plenty of young goalies that the Predators have had that have become great goalies in the NHL. So, I trust the Predators to do that.
It's going to be really interesting to see what happens. We're just over a week away from the NHL draft here in Nashville. We'll have lots more coming on that. Adam, thanks for being with us. That's going to do it for us today here on the program. You'll be back next week with us as well, so looking forward to that. Coming up next, it's time for Chase and Michelle. You're listening to 102.5, 106.3.